The CoCo Nation Show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCo Nation Show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCo Nation.
Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCo Nation, the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 322. How's everybody doing?
We're here. Woo!
We are. And
Good
we're on the
stuff.
right
All
side of the
fine.
daisies. Let's see who we got on the panel today. All right. First up in the upper left-hand corner, we got Marco.
Hey, glad to be here, and I see I'm back in my normal position.
And L. Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
And yours truly. Next up, Patrick Euland.
Howdy, everyone.
And Coconut Bob.
Howdy.
Oh, Kevin Holloway.
Hello, everybody.
And next over, Alan.
Howdy, howdy. We're on fire.
And David Ladd, who's not on the bottom row this time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. Enjoy.
Well, we were. Let's see. Nick Barentes.
Detroit forever. Welcome to tomorrow. Yes.
Now, really, you got to give us those Powerball numbers. We really need those this time.
16.
Here they
Hang
come.
on.
Wait a
they
minute.
just
You got
changed
nothing to
the-
write with.
That's right.
All right, let's see. Next up, Fred.
Hello, everyone. Back from vacation and rested and ready to go.
Okay. Jason, CocoMan.biz.
Hello. Do you have your Diet Dr. Pepper yet?
Okay. Ken Waters.
No Diet Dr. Pepper, but coffee.
Moose Juice. Let's see. On the bottom row, we got Ron Delvaux.
Good day from the portal of Ron's Garage in Arizona, where we're baking outside today.
Baking outside on the sidewalk, right?
Mhm.
All right. And last but not least, Erico.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here
Where are you, Erico?
in Brazil.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. In the chat, we've got Rick and Marco, David Croker, Brian Walsh, Scott Cooper, Tom Eric Gunderson, Alan, the Steegies, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Yep.
See a
And
Jim
Mike-
Rye out there.
Yeah, Mikey, Mark Siegel. Let's see, scroll down. That's everybody. Everybody in the chat at the moment. All right, first up, we're going to do project updates and acquisitions and whatnot. Let's see, Ron or Bob?
Let Bob go first.
Okay, Coconut Bob. What you got for us today?
Okay, let me see here. I'm going to reset this thing real quick. And oops.
I don't know. Some of you guys may remember originally I demoed my software, my color fog software. And basically I've been trying to update it a little bit and working on getting it to run with the SDC and just function at all, basically. And what I showed back then was a really old version, out of date, and I kind of just wanted to show the latest version and some of the progress I've made with it. But this is still a little beta, and it's just kind of forcing itself to work, and it's still not reading the SDC itself, but I'm able to read my disks and stuff. First thing, I'm going to be running from a real floppy drive with the GoTech, and the SDC is in there too. So drive. This is something that I had to learn, was turning the drives off to access the real floppy. Right now, drive 2 is just under stock basic. There's nothing connected to it. The drive bay is empty. Most people want that to be the second side of drive 0. Okay, so we'll go there.
I think under SDC DOS, it'll actually go to DriveWire, because isn't 2 and 3 hard coded for DriveWire?
Yeah,
Or
I think
physical
so.
floppies only?
You can see it there on my screen. It's on DriveWire. 2 and 3 are on DriveWire 0, whatever.
Yeah, because you can't mount disk images on those 2 drives, which is unfortunate. But
Right.
just the way it's set up.
But you can use real floppy sides.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done there. I've turned off those 2, and now I'm going to just run one. Again, I don't have to switch the drive first. It'll automatically do that. And remember which drive it's run from. My joystick detection routine isn't really working right now.
Let's see if I can find a place to stick the panel here. I have to tuck you guys down in the corner.
Nobody puts a panel in the corner.
Yep, there we go. Here's a nice spot.
I'm used to being in the corner.
Okay, well, apparently it's crashed, right? I'm gonna just...
Yes, and you stay there and think about what you did.
Did we lose Bob's audio?
I was just being real quiet, trying to figure out why I crashed my machine. Here we go.
Be very, very quiet.
That's a proper demo when the machine crashes.
I think you can see my drive lights here on the physical floppy drive. That's why I'm kind of keeping that image up, so you can see when it's real floppy versus SDC. Even though you can't see my SDC anyway.
That's kind of a slick looking GUI.
All right, so yeah.
So are those color coded depending on what kind of file it is, or what?
Yeah, basically it based on the 3-letter extension. I just went through and arbitrarily chose my own color scheme.
Nice.
So, and also like PM4 is a P mode 4 graphic, so I can click on that and have my little pop-up menu here. It wraps around with the joystick wherever. view.
Nice. Looks nice.
So obviously I'm black and white here because this is VGA. I've got the full color over there, but yeah, a little blown out on camera. Go back. We have fonts. It's a context sensitive menu that instead of view for the PMO graphics, it's install for a font or something else for basic or binaries, execute, load, whatever. Load fonts on the fly.
Classy
Ooh.
Sweet.
and colorful.
Colors are my favorite part of the CoCo 3. I like the IBM font here.
Yeah, it's probably the one I use the most often in EOU too.
Again, I've got my little pie chart here that's showing the free versus used. All I have is basic sector usage right now, but at some point I wanted to add more detail to that, and even on like individual files, be able to find, you know, information on it, like maybe even get a sector map of where it's stored on the disk. But you can do like copy it to another drive, move it, rename, kill. I was going to make an undelete function. I haven't really fleshed that out yet, but I know kind of the concept behind manipulating the file table. Something else that wasn't in the version you guys saw, if you look at my buttons up here, you can see highlighted letters. Those are hotkeys. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So I can hit F1 to get to the help screen. There is a little bit of actual information in there now that wasn't there before. So you can control click drive buttons to remap them.
Wow. F1 key actually doing something useful.
All right. Although it has my old email address on there, that's not good.
Are you the Bob or are you the other Bob?
I'm definitely the other Bob.
Oh, okay.
Bob, or my
Okay,
other brother
so-
Bob.
So if I hit, we're looking at drive 0 right now. I'm going to hit 2, and that should be the other side of my floppy. So those are hotkeys too, the drive numbers.
Now, is that the real sound of the drive or is that a digital sound?
That's the real floppy.
Mhm.
I don't know why I got an error there. That was formatted earlier. And if I hit 1, now I'm getting the GoTech. So color fog generator, that's a disk label. I think like ADOS compatible. So you're able to, I don't know if I built it in here yet, but it'll read disk labels, and I'm sure I made it to where you can label them since I put that label there. Let's see here. I'm gonna go to, yeah, and the thing with the GoTech, if you click the other side, it's always the same drive regardless. It's like the side select has no use, no difference.
Go ahead. So did you say you
It's like
can
a hidden file.
change the background color too?
So yeah, we'll go here to setup. And this is like a modular program, so we're completely leaving that program, loading another one off the disk. And there are stored variables both on the disk itself and some in memory, like in a hidden RAM location.
This might be a good spot to ask. So suppose you load a program using color fog.
I mean, I haven't really fleshed out that much of it. Like, it's not as smooth as, say, the SDC Explorer, where everything will just work. Some things will work and some things will just crash. But I do kind of want to make that like a little loader module that minimizes itself before loading and executing. So that's kind of a future project, yeah.
Okay.
So here you can see I can set 1, 2, or 3 drives and icon for each drive. I've added a couple of new ones here. So I'm going to put that one there. That's my 3.5. Down here on the last demo, those were squared off buttons. I kind of like these rounded corners now, or beveled corners, whatever. But all the buttons have that 3D kind of look and feel to them that get a little trademarked fog swatch there to see what the colors would look like and apply.
Very calming.
Just like the presets feature in Control.
That's too much look like Commodore there.
Not enough brown.
What does the gray, how does the gray look? Oh, yeah.
I kind of like that one, actually. It kind of makes the other colors pop. So now if I hit save, it'll go back to fog. If I hit exit, it'll just quit to basic. My wraparound menus here.
And is this written in basic?
This is entirely in basic.
Right. Yep. That's pretty good.
Ace, it's moving quite fast too, other than being pretty.
The only thing it's missing is a trash can. I know a guy.
I know a design there.
You can even get a pre-filled trash can. There's a copy of Neutroid already in it.
So now you can see my refreshed icons up here. What you can't see is normally this was designed for HDB DOS, and there would be a hard drive icon up here with some little curly brackets and all the buttons with whatever drives I wanted to look at. I could like map it to any of the 255 drives. Somewhere I have a version that's rigged up that'll show that, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. But I don't know. I guess that's most of it. The cursor drawing is actually live draw statement. It's not get and put, although it gets the background, draws the cursor, and then puts the background to erase it. Almost everything in here is draw strings.
What are you using for a mouse? It wouldn't be the brick, would it? Oh, the deluxe.
Deluxe.
Yeah. You can use the single button mouse, and the F2 button will work as the F2 key will work as a second mouse button.
Well, that's good to know.
But the program's designed to use the two mouse buttons, both of them, right?
Yeah. So if I like, oh, and I almost forgot to even show the coolest thing. But yeah, if I right click on this, that doesn't do anything. If I just click it, it pulls up the menu. No, I don't want to kill that.
So does it
I don't
feel?
remember where right click is used.
Does it feel weird to you to have the cover on the computer?
It feels weird to have it off, but I have to have it off on this particular machine because it's not the stock socket on there, and my
Yeah.
MP3 doesn't make a good connection with the lid on this machine.
Yeah, Paul Barton was a big advocate of having his cover off too.
I don't mind
At the very
it
least,
all,
every
though.
CoCo owner should not have screws in their case. That's what I'm kind of gathering.
Right.
So this was actually one of the last things that I made for this. That's pretty cool. If I hold down Control, I can click a file here, and here, go in alphabetical order. See my little button up here, it says list, 5 files selected.
Oh, so you're multi-selecting files this way.
Yeah, so now I've got 7 files selected, basically all those fonts. And if I click that, I get something called group. And if I select group, I'm going to hit escape first, and I'll just hit list so you can see what that button does, because that becomes an actual button. So that just lists the actual files that I selected. I can't do anything there. I just have to click to get back out. They're still selected though with that button. If I hit group, so I can copy those to another drive as a group, or I can move them or delete them.
That's useful.
Nice.
If I hit group, it'll let me make a file called a .fog file. And, just call this fonts.
You gonna add some sort of a visual indicator as to which files are selected?
I want to do that, but it was a little tricky at the time. I'm somewhat restricted on my palette here.
I'm thinking maybe just put an asterisk.
Yeah, maybe
each one.
Or just draw an outline around each file that's selected or something.
Yeah.
Little arrow on the
Or just
side of
leave it
each
as a
one.
Or invert them or something, like inverse the text, like do a not or something.
Let me ask you something. You just said before that the majority of your graphics are being drawn with the draw command. Did I get that right?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh man, that's pretty great, and it's incredibly fast. How are you dealing the? How are you copying the background for the mouse? The kind of alpha you get there.
The mouse, I actually, if the mouse is moved, it gets the background of the new position, and then I H draw the mouse itself, and then it just stays there until the mouse moves again, at which point it will H put that background and redraw and go to the new position. So that's why it's pretty smooth motion for basic. You know?
I see. Yes, I'm impressed.
It doesn't just sit there and flicker when I'm not doing anything. If I'm moving slow, it's nice and steady, and if I move fast, it'll jump. But
Are you planning on supporting the high-res interface too at some point, or do you need it for this program?
Actually, that was actually intended. I have the file for it, but I'm not sure. You know, it's a little rusty up here, and I don't remember how to implement it. So I'm gonna do that. Yes, I have the high-res interface sitting here plugged in. So, and like these square buttons here, that's a single draw command, and I just use the angle function to flip it over for the like it's a 3D press. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked that button. Anyway. But the pie chart does the same thing.
Excellent.
What does FOG stands for again?
So for the overall program, it's File Operations GUI.
Oh, okay.
And then the FOG file itself. Oh, there's the FOG file that I saved when I selected those. That one stands for File Operations Group.
So when did you first create this?
I started around 2002. I think the last time I worked on it was 2004 before I pulled this all out of storage and started again just this past year. So yeah, if I click on the pie chart here, it also has that 3D kind of pressed look. And again, it's just the angle. Angle come in, draws the outer outline, and then everything is filled in. So that's about all I got on this. I just wanted to show off a little bit of progress and that it's still being worked on.
You're doing great.
Good.
Kind of if it's something that people are interested in, you know. If nothing else, it's some good examples of how to do some really efficient basic coding. I did put a whole lot of time into making it fast and smooth.
What size is your main file for fog?
Let's see. I'll do a reset and we'll load it in and calculate.
BAZ.
That's intentional.
Oh.
BAS is the loader, BAZ is the main module.
Okay.
You have to go through the loader to get the environment set up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. 22 minus 6 for 16, about 16K.
About that.
Very nice. It reminds, if I'm getting this right, but it reminds me a little bit it reminds of, you know, directory Opus on the Amiga. Kind of has that feeling to me, the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, Erico. That does seem a little bit like Opus.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty
Basically,
great.
this
right?
was
Yeah.
It was my attempt to make it easier to use, you know, both sides of my floppy drives for file management and HDD DOS.
Well, seems to be coming up.
At some point, I will get my. I have my HDD hard drive still, but I need to get that system up and running. I need to get my hard drive adapter connected to the board somehow. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you did good.
Very nice.
Nice, yeah.
Thank you.
Let us know when you're finished.
It's never
You play with
finished.
it.
You mean the presentation of the program itself, Ron?
When it's done, ready to
play with, yeah.
To have copy sessions.
When I feel another comfortable release date, yeah.
Almost ready for distribution. Okay, let's see. Erico, you want to go up next?
Me? Yes, I can. No.
Yeah,
that's
an Alan. That's an Australian program. That.
Right, before I share the screen here, just like to say a few words. I'm a little bit behind on the CoCo Nation these days. A lot of busy stuff going on here on a live part of things. So last CoCo Nation chapter, I heard you guys were talking about UG Basic, and we have that side of Discord where we talk a little bit about it. So I thought to come over here today and show some of the testings I've been doing. Unfortunately, I don't have them already here. It's been a few months. I didn't have time to work it out, but I can show a few things to you guys. First, the UG Basic thing, I think I stumbled into it a couple years ago when it was at its very first beginning. It was on its very early stage of development. It was supporting some of the platforms, not the Dragon, not the color computer. And I think I stumbled into it while I was doing some experimentations with MPAGD, which is it's a pretty competent game engine, right? You guys know about it, and it has support for the color computer. It's how can I say? It's very strict in its engine form, but it's capable, and it has a sort of a script language in BASIC. So if you guys know BASIC, you can jump into MPHD pretty much right away. It's a little bit complicated to get the things going, right? The MPHD, and the way the thing is structured is very how can you say it's ICE. It's a little. It's not a language, right? It's just scripts. So I was looking for an alternative, something like a modern BASIC. I stumbled into UG BASIC and realized that it wasn't ready for the CoCo or Dragon at the time. Some years later, I think last year, I stumbled into it again, and I found out it was supporting Dragon. Well, if it's supporting the Dragon, it should support the CoCo easily. So I started doing some tests with it, found it quite capable to reach some of the results I wanted. So, well, and then we know the story. We tried to bring the guy, Marco, into Discord and into our community and see if he could support the color computer. And today the color computer is supported and things is ongoing. So what can I tell you guys about it? It's the basic you have in EUG Basic is not disk extended color basic. It has nothing to do with it. It's just a different language, right? So in my case, from basic on the color computer, I can't expect the same kind of functionality, right? So I have to take a look at everything back again and see how things work out. And to my surprise, it's pretty capable on the form it currently is. There are some problems here and there. It's an evolving, it's a work in progress project. So it's the kind of thing that you expect to keep version control if you are doing some serious stuff with it, because you know next update can break something, can fix something, break another. So it's this kind of tool, right? You have to follow it and keep your version going. And I'd like to show you guys some of the tests I did with it. Let me share the screen here. All right, can you see this hugely? Can you guys see this whole mess here?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so the one snippet I could find out here is, let me start here from this part here. If there's one thing I believe color computer users should be able to do is graphic adventures, right? It's one of the hallmark type of games on the color computer, and everyone who enjoys it should be able to do one. And it's if you're going to do a high resolution CoCo 2 adventure like Mark Data once, it's really difficult to do it in basic, right? It's very complicated to keep to load the graphics or to have the graphics in code. It takes a lot of space, and even to display the graphics is something a little complicated. Now, if you know assembler or this kind of stuff, or you can have access to the disk and you know how to work disk systems, then it's a little bit easier. But still, it's a challenge. So my first intention with the UG Basic was to test, since the sound is not in, some of the things are not in yet. I thought that an adventure would be a good testing ground to see how things are going. So I took time to look at Sea Quest, right? You guys know this game, right?
Yeah, Mark Data Products.
Let me see here. Here's some. So I took the time to map, right? The thing. I took the map somebody did on the CoCo archive, right? With the locations. So here you have. It's pretty interesting to see a color computer adventure, you know, in a spatial, you know, kind of isometric way like this. Gives such a different perspective on these games. At some point, I would like to do a Vortex Factor one, but I have a better one here. This has image, right? So this one here is flip it and has the images, right? So looking here, you can pretty much see how, or get an idea on how the game was kind of tile it, right? To take advantage, to use less space and take advantage of recycling graphics. So you can pretty much see that the shore here is almost the same graphics, right? And then the ocean's pretty much similar. The island is the same as the shore, but without the mountains. And the sea is pretty much all blue, right? And you have some, the inland here is sort of similar too. So you can get an idea how to tile this kind of graphics to produce more locations than holding the whole screen, right? Holding a screen like this is very expensive in the color computer. So I thought, why not give it a try on doing some exercise with this. And you guys probably know I have this the system here for creating the P-Mode 4 artifact colors. The NTSC is pretty much complete. I still have to take a look at the NTSC part. I have to meet with Luciano to run some tests and capture the Brazilian colors. The Brazilian colors, I think there are a few more colors, and the Brazilian POM does not ramp colors as the NTSC, right? You have set of blues and set of yellows. Brazilian colors are a little bit different than this. But from here, I drew locations inspired by Sea Quest. Here's one of them, right? And the way this system goes or works is that you draw using these colors here only. You draw on this region here, and then you press this macro system I built. If you take a look up here, you're gonna see there's a folder that says colors, and it's full of patterns, right? So it picks up those colors, substitute for the black and white pattern of the NTSC, and also substitute it with a sort of a preview. So if I press F5 here, it goes on doing a little bit of work, exchanging each of the colors, and at the end it shows me, let me get this bigger here, it shows me the intended graphics. So the part you see here on the right is the part you're going to send to the color computer, and what you see on the left here is what the colors are supposed to be. Now, I think you guys have seen this before, right? So I use this system to create some of the locations. I think I have some of them here. This is one, this is another. Pretty much this is the pier. Is that it? The pier where the boat is located?
Yeah.
And the part with the rock, the Abraçasamo rock, some general place, the waterfall, and here are some pieces, right? At some point, I broke this image into tiles, so I could attempt to recycle them and get more images into one code. Here are more of the beats and the parts, right? The waterfall. It's sort of like a poor man's compression technique, right? If we get people with a higher level of compression understanding, we sure can put a lot more image than I can. But this is a simple way to attempt to recreate those images or create new stuff.
It kind of reminds me of Bjork blocks, the Steve Bjork did, where you have these 8x8 tiles, and that's how it does its compression. You create all these different tiles, and you just tell them to mix them together.
I pretty much believe if it's a split into 8x8, I could probably get better performance than those bigger blocks I did.
So this might be useful to me in my efforts to make Andark 3. Because I'm struggling right now with the basically most of what's left to do in the game is creating the graphics for each of the rooms, and I've been kind of struggling with that. This might be useful.
It was exactly made for that reason, because the only way there are only two ways I can draw on the color computer by myself if I want artifact colors in P mode 4. That is, either I draw using one of the programs like CoCo Max, But then I don't have the knowledge to extract that information into a basic game. And I'm a basic guy. I don't know how to do anything else. So I needed to find another way other than drawing directly in BASIC, drawing with 0 and 1s and data tables. So I came up with this solution. So it's made exactly for what you just said, creating P-Mode4 graphics in an easy fashion.
See, using like CoCo or something, the resulting files are just too big. And with the number of rooms that I have in the game, it would just be an insane amount of disks that would be taken up by all these graphic images. But this might be a way of compressing things.
What is the what are the size of your
of the graphical area where the room is displayed?
Yeah, the graphics you need. What's
it's 320 by 100.
Oh, you need
You
a
use
full
CoCo
screen
3
stuff?
then, right?
Yeah, I'm using a CoCo 3. Yeah.
But well, it's probably for the color computer tree. I'm not sure if this is gonna benefit. It's pretty much for.
So this is mainly for the CoCo 2.
Yep. Now, if you want to do graphics for the color computer tree, you can pretty much directly use any kind of paint package. Anyone will do. And you don't need Photoshop. You probably can use a more
Color
pixel
Max
art.
3 or Color Max 3 Deluxe or CoCo Max 3. They do have some file compression built in, but not in a tiled fashion. It's just doing horizontal compression. I think CoCo Max is vertical. But
at the very least, I could maybe use some of the similar techniques that you're using here. I might be able to employ. If not the program itself, then at least the techniques I might be able to.
Yeah, like the tile based, like if your graphic backgrounds can be kind of tileized, is that a word? Like Nintendo games and stuff, where then you could do the CoCo 3 with H.
I think I could. Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't think of tiling. That
like GemQuest on EOU that uses tiles, basically draw all of its backgrounds, like ladders and lava pits and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
There's also some,
but at the very least, this gives me inspiration to think of some other ways to make things more efficient.
There are some pixel art programs out there. There are pixel art programs and tile map programs on the same stuff, and they're free, open, and accessible. And I kind of use them when designing things for the ZX Spectrum. It's pretty much a bunch of drawing with a bunch of 8x8 tiles. So I pretty much construct everything into these programs before I go into, say, MPHD, and he create those tiles and then reassemble the image. It's a lot of work, but it's one solution I found to do it. But well, the point about this system here, which should be released at any time this year, for God's sake, is that I've created this images, and here's UG Basic. So this is a little test program. It just load those images. This is the good thing about UG Basic. I can directly load a PNG containing those black and white graphics I can export from this system, and I can put them on screen with a single command. Now here you're going to see a whole bunch of for next loops and whatnot, because here I am already I'm working with the blocks, right? Not with the full images. So the things you see, right? The things you see up here, part 1, part 2, part 3, are the parts that compose the C side of CQuest, the ones I redrew. And these parts here, they assemble those parts, right? So if I execute this program, it's just that control. Let me see here. If I execute this, all right, gets here. Let's just get some of the artifacts going on, and let's get this a little bit bigger. I gotta mess with the setup here at some point. So here it is. I didn't clear the rest of the screen. It's just the graphics on top. So here's the first one, and then I move to the other. It's pretty fast pasting those graphics. Here's another one. I'm using the arrow keys as north, south, east, west. So I can more or less walk around, right? There's a little bit of green here, but pulling out this green is really hard if it's just a little part. And that's pretty much it. So the thing is that it works, but it's UG Basic is a lot different than what we have on Disk Extended Color Basic. One interesting thing here, which is what I'm currently going to research pretty soon, is about the size. You see, this short code here, with this bunch of image it's taking, let's see which one here, just this one here. PDGT bus, yes, this binary here is at 8K, right? The majority of these 8K is because of the graphics, but what I've realized these days is that the cost for commands in UG Basic is very expensive, a lot more expensive than Disk Extended Color Basic. See, that landing game I was creating with draw command, it's taking almost the 22K available on Disk Extended Color Basic. And there is a lot of code there. There's a lot of logic. There's a lot going on. And within my tests with UG Basic, I've realized that the commands do take, they are expensive. So you have to take care about that. You quickly run through memory by using commands. Now, what I heard from Marco, I'm not sure if I have this here, but going on here, let me see. He implemented a system that gives me information about this code and tells me how much each of these lines, each of these commands, how much they are costing in memory. And he showed me a way that I can, because see, while I enjoy the MSX and the ZDEC Spectrum for this kind of isomorphic language, my goal is to use this for color computer, and that's it. It's like I want to use it as a kind of like a deluxe compiler, right? So he was telling me that some of these commands can be edited, and you can make them a lot shorter because they are carrying for all of the machines. So we can go there and strip the part of the other machines and keep it color computer only if we are looking for a lot of spaces. What else I can tell you about UG Basic? Print command is not as versatile as the print command on this Basic. This Basic has a very fast and versatile print command. You're not going to see it here. Printing the characters in UG Basic, you're not going to get the semi-graphics. But the good side of things that you have alternatives. You can pick and poke. So you can poke the semi-graphics directly on screen, right? And it's blazing fast, even faster than the print command in traditional Basic. And what else can I tell you? Sound is not there yet, but it seems like he's about to add a exec command. Therefore, we can get to the sound, the sound commands from the ROM directly on the color computer, so we can generate sounds that way. See, for example, the joystick command had problems. It didn't read the second joystick. It didn't read the button. We know the joystick button in color computer is not standard as the other computers, right? It's something unique. So it has something to do with the keyboard, if I'm not wrong about it. So you can use pick and poke to directly access the same routine of picks and pokes I use for that fight game. I can get it into the UG Basic and it will read the joysticks, both joysticks perfectly. So there are these things. The commands are not exactly the same. They don't perform the same. They cost different memory-wise, but you always have a way to go around as long as you have access to the ROM, right? So it's pretty capable. It's a pretty capable language so far, and I believe that we can create a test adventure game at some point. I mean, it's just about drawing, right? Setting up a scene and creating something like that. So what you guys think of it?
Good.
It looks promising. Do you know if he has any plans for CoCo 3 extensions too at some point, or?
Well, he mentioned I saw. I mean, he mentioned the color computer tree, but it's I mean, from the Dragon to the CoCo 1 too, it's something easier than it kind of feels to me that the color computed tree is a very different beast.
It is.
Will require a lot of attention, to work out the game and all those peculiarities. So he said he wants to do it, but we'll have to see how that's going to go. So did you guys try it? Did anyone give it a go?
I haven't had a chance to yet. No. I don't know if we have Alan. If anybody else has had a chance to try it yet, or
Yeah, I've started getting it set up, but I haven't got any code that I've put together in it. I'm still trying to get around and get the fundamentals of the language.
It's pretty much basic. If you know, if you already do stuff with basic, you were going to.
You just have to go through that big long page with all the commands on it and make sure you get all the little pieces.
Most of those comments on the and I mean the manual is not really complete, right? The manual was still under production. Some of the comments, especially some that are important to me, they are not well documented yet. So it's the kind of thing like an evolving language, kind of like it's hard for them to keep the documentation going on. It's best for them to work on the language. But then
tell me about it.
Users of
very true.
It's complicated. I know I've seen some different ways of pasting images on screen. Like currently, there are different ways to put image on screen. The command I'm using here, put image, it requires it to be on the byte boundary, right? So I cannot use this put image as a sprite command, right? But I can move this put image vertically per pixel, but horizontally I have to move it 8 by 8. But then again, it's not a problem because let's say we want to do Prince of Persia, right? The character has a set of animation and he's always standing on certain locations, which are 8 by 8 places. So you create a whole bunch of animations, kind of like hard-coded sprites, right? It moves, and then after it animates, it's already on the other part of the the 8 pixels. So it's possible to go around. There are some other pasting commands, but I didn't try anything. The only graphical things I've tried with it so far is this. I've tried semi-graphics. It's blazing fast using pick and poke. And currently, I am going to investigate the cost of command, the cost of logic, right? Create simple, get some of the code I have in disk extended basic and port it to here just to see how much this is going to cost, right? And how that's, so that I can scale how much program I can put into the available memory. And I think one of the last things would be great to have here is the ability to load external files or load external executables, which I believe it's something he's working these days. I haven't checked it yet. Like adding machine language, inline machine language, and all that.
What does he allow the carrying of images if you go between programs? So let's say you have one program, because you said you're running low in memory in cases. If you have one program that loads all of these tiles, and then it runs another program that actually has the text adventure part of the game, and that other stuff's already preloaded from the previous one, so you don't need the code there that's doing it. Can you chain programs together like that?
I think that's exactly the part he's working right now by allowing that inserting of assembler code, Osm code into it, and he's doing this executing other parts, other codes, other code that wasn't done with UG Basic. I think he's just doing this part these days. It's just that I haven't tried that yet. I just read about it.
Because I know I know Jim Hollis, who's been fiddling with Graph Express, which is a CoCo 3 specific language extension that has sprites and multiple windows and tiling and multi-voice music and all that kind of stuff built in that you can call from basic. But it takes a fair bit of memory too, and you got like maybe 12, 13K left for your basic program. But you can actually tell it to like preload images and maybe a song or whatever on the launch program, and then it does a run from there of the actual game program, and you don't have to keep all that stuff. All the code that generated it in memory, you go onto the game, but the assets are already loaded, like the graphics pages are already loaded, the tiles are already loaded, etc.
That's probably going to be possible as far as what I read. What I was personally looking at is the kind of thing, kind of functionality I have going with the fight, with the semi-graphic fight game, right? I have like two or three stages into the 22K in basic, and as you get to the end of it, I get the two important variables into the cassette buffer, and I perform a load R, right?
Yeah. So it automatically runs
And
after it loads.
so it cleans the last program, loads the last bit from disk, and executes it. And that right at the start of this second, third, fourth, and whatever, as many as I want, it checks these two variables to know where it should be, and get the memory, the energy of the player, and it goes on. So even if you run the second or third or fourth part by itself, it's going to detect it's not supposed to be there and re-execute the first part. So in that fashion, I can almost have an eternal. I mean, I can have an eternal game as long as there's disk space. I can have it going. Right. So it's this kind of functionality I would like to see here, a way to say load another executable and pass some variables to this other executable. And it seems to be going that way. Let's hope. Let's hope it works.
Cool.
I was going to add, I first compiled the UG Basic when it first got available for the CoCo, and I'd noticed that there's a big examples folder with lots of basic in it. Most of them, the simpler ones that are text, seem to work fine for the CoCo, and I tried just cross-compiling them for some of the other platforms to see if they would work. But some of the more complex ones are not really targeted to CoCo yet. But so in addition to the documentation, you can use the examples to see how the code works.
Yeah, the documentation currently doesn't help much. It gives you an idea of what goes on. Some of the commands are marked working and not working. There's a lot of hidden commands which are not on the documentations, neither on the examples. Sometimes they, when Marco or somebody else from their Facebook group posts code, you spot commands doing something that are not available anywhere. So this part is more or less a work in progress. And yes, there is this problem. Most of the I didn't try many of the examples. I kind of approached it into I want to do semi-graphics, and I was looking into a way using print command, characters, didn't find it, tried pick poke. So my approach to it was from what I didn't even take time to look at. I think I ran one example and it didn't run correctly. I think it was one of those more complex ones. But you did compile it in Linux box, didn't you?
Yeah, I compiled it from source because the executables we had for Linux required a newer version of glib than my system has. So I had to originally I had to dial down a new version of Bison, and I think Flex in order to get to compile. He's now including Flex and Bison as part of his actual package. And I was able to compile it this last week, with only just the auto make, I guess it was, need to be updated. But there's still something wrong with it. I can't get the Z80 compiler to work, but I did get the CC65 and the ASM 6809 to work. So I've been able to generate compilers for Commodore 64 and the CC128 and the CoCo and the Dragon.
Well, being able to compile for the color computer is the most important part. The rest,
of course.
but
I also have Commodores too, so
Oh, nice. It's interesting that I would have no idea how to do what you just said, how to get the source and run it from a Linux box. I'd have no idea how to do that. That's nice work.
I'm still kind of new to this too, but a couple of years ago, I didn't want to go to Windows 10, so I installed Ubuntu Linux, and I've been using it daily now. So I'm getting pretty good with it.
All right, and this is what I wanted to show you guys. I think I have done some examples with Double Dragon images before. I've made I split some characters from Double Dragon to try to create little animations going about to see how fast the YouTube Basic could paste this stuff. But I'm pretty confident at this point some sort of game, either semi-graphics or graphic P-Mode 4 graphic adventure game can be done. So I'll probably take a look at it at some point, but I am going to finish the disc extended basic games I have going on. The Lander game, it's like almost complete, and I'm either going to put the finished touches into that, or I'm gonna give a go on Tim Linner's 64K basic. Right, you guys remember that?
Squanchy Basic, I think he called it or something.
Exactly, Squanchy Basic. I'm tempted to give that a try, because the Lander game could really use more on the adventure side when you land. There's just no more space for that. And if I use his Squanchy Basic, and I'm not using anything weird in that game. There's no bolts and exacts. It's just standard disc extended color basics. So his Squanchy Basic should be an excellent call. And creating a 64K basic game is something ace, right?
That would be cool.
Yeah. Well, when you get either of those projects to the point of demoing it, come back on for sure and give us a demo.
All right. Well, hopefully this semester is going to be easier on my side, and I hope to be around more often and be following up everything that's going on more closely.
Cool.
Nice.
That basic actually looks pretty interesting now that you've actually given a demo and shown some sample source code. And as you said, it's a work in progress, so he keeps adding more stuff to it. So
hopefully I can generate some more little examples that are directly CoCo related only, and I'll try to share it on the Facebook and Discord, see if people can pick it up, because it seems to me that this can provide for those who are not experienced enough on the hardware and assembler and all that, this could provide an entrance to create to create games in the more easier fashion. So if we can get people involved in who are interested into it, it can be cool. I've been talking with Brazilian friends here, where we are looking into creating some of these adventures too, with Mauricio Mati, Luciano Schaff. I've been talking about doing some stuff with it at some point, but we'll see. I'll keep you guys informed.
Very cool.
Cool. Thanks.
I just want to have one question for you. Is the language a problem when you're doing basic? I mean,
you mean the what language? You mean the basic itself or the English?
Because you don't speak English all the time, right?
It's pretty good.
I guess the majority of the time is I pretty much work with foreigners, people from Germany, Australia, different places. So English is something I'm constantly reading or writing. So I'm pretty comfortable with it. And Color Computer, Mark Data Product taught me English, tell you the truth. It's because of those games I got into it. So language is fine.
A lot of us here are kind of spoiled. We just speak English from birth, and we don't, have anything else in our mind. But I mean, you have a lot of translation going on sometimes, and I suppose that'd be a little bit more to think about.
No, it's clear, it's automatic. Most of the computer stuff I do is in English. I learned English because of the Color Computer, and I tell you, while our local language here, Portuguese, is nice for a whole bunch of stuff, and it's my native language, it's a complicated language. It's difficult. So I find myself, it's easier for me to even write in English. Writing in Portuguese, I mean, if it's poetry or something like that, it works fine. But anything technical or very objective, it's usually better to get into English. And basic language is very objective, so it works out fine. Calculations.
Oh, sorry.
The only problem is calculations, right? I'm still I do calculations in my mind. Still on my own language, on native language. It's hard for me to calculate in English, but the language itself is fine.
Okay.
Just so happens my son is learning Portuguese in school, and so he's finding it pretty fun. And his teachers are Brazilian, so yeah.
Great. It's nice language, but for computers, I mean, all the computer languages are English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them for sure.
Yeah, English is my second language. My first one is assembly.
We can see.
Speaking assembly since birth. Okay, that's cool.
He's just got to unlearn Neutroid language and he'll be fine.
That's a good one.
Yeah, remember he started in Z80.
yeah, that's right.
Worked his way up.
That baby talk.
I think Coconut Bob's screen has got me kind of hypnotized.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Next up, we have a and take it away, Ron.
Okay. Let's see. Share sound, right? Okay. Am I up?
Yep.
You are up.
All right. Looks like VCF West put an ad here. I was thinking of going, but it's a long drive, so I'm not going.
I'm
Anyway.
sorry I didn't go to the Southwest one.
Yeah, had a lot of candy stuff in it.
Where is the Southwest one, by the way?
Dallas
Somewhere
Fort
in the
Worth, isn't
Dallas
it?
area.
Yeah.
Fort Worth,
it's right
Dallas.
there.
Okay.
The next one's San Francisco, right? Area?
Yeah. That's the one that's this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or next weekend or something. It's pretty-
Mountain View.
That's more doable. I could drive there. I've driven to San Francisco before. Yeah. Anyway.
This is Vocal Freedom. I had a disc with said Vocal Freedom backup copy. I threw it in, tried it out. This is running from disk. And
Vocal freedom, the ultimate power in speech and sound.
can barely hear it.
Yeah, this was a digitization program for the CoCo 3 by Dr. Preble's programs, written by a guy who actually was Dr. Preble.
Is it Preble? I always pronounced it Preble, but I don't know.
Preble.
I think when I did talk to him back at Rainbow Fest one year, and I think it was Preble, but honestly, my memory's kind of faint on it, so maybe I'm wrong. But if you were in the CoCo 1 and 2 area, he was quite famous for doing VDOS, the virtual DOS that could run off cassette and use 64K to give yourself a small virtual drive.
So it says to study the programs and you can do your own stuff. But I thought it was
Yeah,
kind of
that was a CoCo 3 only one. It actually did pretty good digitization, so you could play, music clips or voice or sound effects or whatever you wanted.
See, there's some stuff in here that'll make you a digitized sample, I guess. But anyway, so I'm going through a lot of my diskettes, and that was one that came up. But it already happened to be on my SDC, so I ran it on the SDC, and man, the SDC is so much faster.
Yep.
So much faster. I did I gathered together some of my files that I've scanned over the high color
All
images on the CoCo, just
For the
because,
moon landing day.
yeah, it's the 54th anniversary, and there's a program you can go to. It's called Apollo 11. It's like live as it's happening, and I have it on my my own.
There is a PlayStation VR recreation of the entire Apollo 11 mission as well, where you ride in the side seat and you can watch Earth falling away and things like that.
Yeah. This is it. It's called As It Happened. No, it's not it.
That was a heck of a rainbow.
Yeah, that's what a real one looked. This is where I lived when Apollo 11 landed in Rochester, New York. That was our home, and this is the TV we watched it on.
Wow, that's the round
rounding.
tube.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, did you do the same mistake my parents did? They tried to take a picture of the Apollo landing on their TV with the flash on the camera, so all you see is a white glare and you can't see
Nope,
the landing at all.
I didn't
Well-
even consider that. I did record it on 3-inch discs.
Right.
You know,
It wouldn't have
3-inch
mattered because it
reel
was
to reel.
upside down and backwards anyway.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
let's see if you can hang on a second. I can show you the program. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Right here. It's called Apollo 11 in real time. And actually, the thing that would still be happening, and so you can hear now what's actually going on.
Minutes. We're now about 49 minutes.
Isn't that cool?
Away from the first
That's
mid-course
nice.
correction
It's
on
like
this
way before
leg of
color
the
computer.
Apollo 11 flight.
It has nothing to do
That
with it.
maneuver
But I thought it was cool.
will
to
be
see.
a 4.8 foot per second burn of the spacecraft reaction control system thrusters,
Doesn't it sound spacey?
and is scheduled to occur at a ground
Well,
elapsed
it has
time.
a lot to do with my lander game. Sure. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, real
That's
time
pretty cool,
studying
actually.
there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I should check it out.
I think the first lander games were pretty much text games, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The very
So
early ones, yeah.
they're pretty similar to that kind of no audio, of course, but just see the numbers. That's interesting.
Oh yeah,
I burned
Yeah,
some
good old-
teletype paper playing Luna.
I remember those games back like from like 1980 or so. They were all text games, right? So
Right.
if
Vertical descent,
computer would tell you
4.7389240.
like, yeah, the computer would tell you like how high above the ground you were and what your velocity was and so on. And you had to type in like how much additional thruster to give it or something, and then it would update. And yeah,
They
those
were-
were the days.
They
Those
they
are
were
crazy.
they were even turn-based, right? They were turn-based. You would type in
Oh,
the
yeah.
numbers and
Yeah.
Yeah, they would be.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
Creative
like a
Computing
something-
published a couple of those generic basic books for multiple platforms that had a couple of those Lunar Lander games, and I remember trying back. They were published
Yeah,
in the
I
late
have
70s.
I have a book of
One of
games
the-
like that. Yeah.
One of the
I
old
find it
HP
marvelous.
One of the old HP Region 10 time sharing games was Luna in 74. And it was type in the pounds of thrust you want to do for the next second. And
Well, this here is what the current prices are of a CoCo 2, right? Online.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I want a CoCo 2 that can actually do those colors.
Don't they?
No,
That's
No,
artistic
not
really.
license,
A little-
Nick.
there seems to be a little bit more color into that screen.
That's
shot.
fake advertising.
Yeah. This is
Mhm.
High Color 2 and CoCo VGA VG6 image. Really came out pretty good.
Yes, CoCo VGA is something I'm really looking forward to getting at some point.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's neat. And this here is Dragon a Day. And if you've been following this, there's all kinds of interesting things in here about the Dragon. It's like a series on, I think this is on Twitter. I'm not sure. Anyway. Yeah, this is Ron's garage, so I can post stuff that I've had. It has nothing to do with the CoCo, but I did play Jeff Vazivar's, or however you say his name's emulator on my older machines like this, and they ran to speed pretty well.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the very first CoCo emulators.
Yeah. I made this for fun. And got lots of comments on it, and 1.8K post reach, it must have went out there and everybody got to see it. There's some more. This is rather colorful.
Yes.
It came out pretty good. And I'll tell you,
Green,
you really
purple.
have to pick a good picture to convert that has a lot of contrast in color.
Yeah, if you have too many subtle shades of the same basic colors,
Yeah,
it kind of gets washed out.
It gets muddy. It really does. And I probably have some of them here somewhere. This is back in the day I don't know if I showed this last time, but this is in a basement in Michigan. A bunch of us used to get together, and some of these people are from the Color Computer Club, and we used to bring our CoCos, set them up, and share programs and learn stuff. Learn about either programming basic or watching somebody's attempt to make a program, and you know, people would give suggestions on. We were like the blind leading the blind, you know. Would try this, you know. And
where in Michigan exactly?
Lambertville, Michigan, just north of Toledo, where I used to live.
Right. I lived in Marshall for a few years.
In where?
In Marshall.
Marshville?
No, Marshall.
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 It's a very Marshall, a very teeny town close to Battle Creek.
Oh, okay. That's a little bit west, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy, do you know who Larry Cole is? I think that's this guy, and he used to be on CompuServe a lot. Do you remember him?
Larry Cole?
Yeah.
Doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head.
Okay.
Larry Greenfield, I know, but
Greenfield, maybe that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, it might have been him. Anyway, every once in a while I throw the Beatles on and run it through the machine and listen for a while. It doesn't come out very loud, but you can hear it. And it's fun to just let it run. A couple of times I've had people come over and I've got it running and they go, well, what is that? You know, and I explain it to them. Anyway, that's
a very early visualizer like they have in iTunes
exactly.
and stuff.
It's what I just noticed, a semi-graphics visualizer.
Yeah, that's the Auto Spectrum Analyzer by Steve Bjork.
Right. That's what that is in kaleidoscope mode. Yeah.
Nice to be set.
This is stuff I drew in CoCo Max, but if you see, this is the setup for
VIP library.
Yeah, VIP library. I stole the picture and put Toledo Color Computer Club in it, and added a drive. And
you drew those.
Huh?
You drew those 3D black and white graphics. So the kind of 3D computer.
I stole them from another program. They were in black and green, and I turned it into black and white through CoCo Max, and added a drive and added the joystick controllers and put something on the screen. And then I did this here for the Color Computer Club. So a lot of times we'd have that setting up at the front of the room when we had, the board members in the front and everybody else. And we had about 80 people in our club. It was pretty cool.
Great.
And this machine has a low serial
number. That's a Canadian one too, isn't it? With the French.
And explain how every time they had a series, they would change the serial number again. This is a 2004 or 3004, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
the colluder did it too.
And have you ever seen CoCo Max come up? This colorware flips. It comes up from the bottom and flips, and then you have to hit reset to get this to be the proper color, and then the program continues. It's pretty neat.
CoCo Max is a great software.
It sure is. You have to use this program pack in the past, and then they made a crack for it, but the joystick use is pretty crappy. I mean, it uses too many jumps in the pixels to draw with. I mean, you can draw, but it's very rudimentary, And that's about it. Thank you, guys.
The Camo. That super Camo game there. That's a great one.
It's fun. So thanks for letting me show my little corner of the world. I spend a lot of time.
Thanks for showing
actually, I'm probably one of the few people in the CoCo world that is producing software probably every other day, every 3 days. and I put it up on Facebook, and anybody can download it, and it's something you can see on your color computer. So if you think about it, go to Ron's Garage and do that.
I'll check. Say, Ron, what are your current choices of drawing directly on the color computer?
There's CoCo Max, there's CoCo Max 3, there's what's the other one?
Color Max?
Color Max.
Color Max Deluxe.
And they had fonts that you could add to them.
What about the
font pack?
using the CoCo VGA? Is there a solution for that?
No, well, the CoCo VGA has a small rendering program that you take a PNG file and it converts the PNG file to the 128 by 96.
96 by 16 color.
Yeah, and it does 4 variations of dithering, and you pick whichever one looks best, and then you can save it off.
But you can draw. You can draw.
Well, it has the ability to. It has a palette on the side of what colors it chose when it did the dithering, and it has a little pen and an eraser. So, like, if you don't like the way somebody's eye looks because it's got too much white or something, you can take some of the other colors and actually do your own artwork on it and make it so it looks better. You know what I mean? Or if you got a couple of words that might show and you need to make it so that the E has a thing in the middle, you can actually add those by clicking on a color and making it legible. So there is that, but otherwise there's not.
It's not a full blown graphics editor like a CoCo Max.
Right. It's
but
just
you can
touch-ups.
You can draw directly to CoCo VGA in BASIC, for example, right? Write data statements
you could
and draw that way.
And they have different screens, different resolution of screens, right?
PG6.
Yeah.
So it will be possible for someone to code package for CoCo VGA, for example.
Yes.
Yes.
That's interesting.
You can even affect the palettes, kind of like the CoCo 3 does, of your standard CoCo 1 and 2 modes too. If you do a couple pokes, you can actually tell it, I don't like that green, I want to make that black instead, or whatever.
Yeah. Now the thing is, there is no
animation.
There's no software outside of that program I was telling you about. Like, you can't just take a CoCo 2, hook it up to your TV, and load in some VG6 files and see them. What you'll see is garbage, because I tried it. But I wish there was something like that so you can see the files I've made on a regular CoCo 2, because the resolution's available, right?
Yeah, just not the colors. You can't get 16 colors at once on the CoCo 1
No,
and 2,
but
limited to 4.
Yeah.
And fixed 4, not the 256 you get to choose from on a CoCo VGA.
Now, another thing I've done was in order to see a file that you've made, I try and convert it to a GIF so that I can use the GIF viewer on CoCo 2. And the GIF viewer is pretty rough. It's
Yes,
rough.
it is.
You have to find, just like when I'm doing the high color images, you have to find a high contrasting color image that would translate well, and anything muddy is not even worth trying. You really have to think when you're doing it. So,
all right,
trial by error.
It takes an artist's touch.
It does. Yeah.
All right. How about we take a short break, go refill our coffee cups, and
look at some WeFax files. What do you think?
Oh, there's the dream.
I was going to say, how about some Game On results?
Sounds good.
Afterwards.
Probably better.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCo Nation Show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
everyone, it's your good buddy, your good pal Amigo, and joined by that dastardly The Brent from ARG Presents.
You're watching CoCo Nation.
I feel like that should have been longer.
The CoCo Nation Show would like to thank the following patrons: Alex Gare, Brendan Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Kieran Anscombe, Coconut Bob, Daddy Burrito, Diego BF109, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Glenn Wabke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, John Bodovkarshaller, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Kevin Holloway, Mike Rayburn, Patrick Euland, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, Terry Steege, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., Tony C., and William A. Thing. Thank you so much, patrons.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
Jim M says, hello. I mostly post in the Facebook group and on YouTube. CoCo's 1 through 3, Commodore 64, Apple II, Commodore VIC-20, Atari 800, MC-10. My elementary school bought a bunch of CoCos and I got an MC-10 for Christmas. After that I was hooked. I also started with the Atari 2600, as far as my introduction to computers went. That eventually led me to a career in software development. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Boysen, Glenside Computer Club, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCo Nation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com.
See you on Discord.
Welcome everybody to the CoCo Nation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Cuthbert in Space. We had a total of 9 people that played. They were Mark B with 330, Mr. Dave 6309 790, Jim Rye 5010, Shenley 6310, Sloopy Malibu 6620, L. Curtis Boyle 6950, Canadian Retro Things 8770, Buck Owens 15,640, and this week's number 1 score belongs to Tasman with 19,750. Thanks everybody that played, and we'll see you again next week. All right.
We're back.
So that was Cuthbert in Space. I would say not one of our more popular games.
If you played, you were guaranteed to be in the top 10.
There you go.
I will mention Scott Cooper actually got much higher than that. He wrapped the score.
Yeah, he did. He didn't post his score where he found the cheat, which I don't know why not, because it's part of the game. It's in the code, so you can use it.
Yeah.
As long as you're not altering the code in any way, then it's a legitimate score.
I'd gotten a little higher than that, but that was the only screenshot I could get.
Yeah, it was one of those annoying ones where you had to score at least 5,000 points before you could be on the leaderboard.
And I discovered after my score that you can fire.
Yep. You can shoot things. That's part of the game. It's I couldn't find any reviews on the game, but it had some annoying things in it. They were a little bit different. Like the part where you had to change your coordinates to get parts and then get back to your ship.
Yeah.
I think that was a bit annoying to do because
especially since the fact that you didn't get any points for doing it. If you actually got points for doing it successfully, then I don't think it would have been so bad. But
it was kind of like a pointless pause of gameplay, really.
Yeah, really, it was.
I never got that far, so.
Well, it was random too. It happened randomly between screens. So sometimes, you would just go from one level to the next, and other times you'd get that stupid thing, and sometimes you get it twice in a row.
Yep. Now, I do have a video from Scott showing the cheat. I don't know. Do you want me to play that and you can continue talking as a background, or?
Sure. Let's take a look at that. I haven't actually seen it, so.
How's it compared to Neutroid?
It's better than Neutroid.
Yeah, that's pretty well goes without saying, I think, at this point. But.
I've never seen playable.
I'm pushing for you, Nick.
Usually just sitting and watching the blinker blink is better than Neutroid. Watching the cursor blink.
You guys are enjoying uneducated. What can I say, Ron?
No, we're Canadians. We have taste.
Oh, it has some of my graphics. I've never seen that game around here.
No, this is a UK release for the Dragon originally.
Yeah.
And then got ported to the CoCo where you can see the artifact colors, because of course they didn't have that with PAL.
Did you want to just skip past the part where you... Like this level's okay. It's just simple pick up the fuel things and put them back in your ship. And
you can fire.
Kill all the guys that are coming through at you from the sides of the screens.
A lot of fire.
Can you only pick up one at a time?
Yeah, you can only pick up one at a time, then you have to drop it in your ship and then go back.
And some of those things coming from the side come in really fast, so you're pretty well, how would Aaron put it? You're boned if you're in the way of it right off the bat. But
like that.
It kind of has a Buzzard Bite feeling into it. Maybe.
Yeah, the platforms are kind of remind me of Joust a bit, yeah.
I'm impressed with how fast and smooth the animation of your ship is.
Yes, extremely smooth.
Yeah.
Did you want me to read Scott's text about the cheat to Ken? Or?
Yeah, sure.
I like the explosion.
I figured out last night what his cheat was without actually seeing.
Yeah, this is the stage you'll get it on. But basically says, here's a video showing how to rack up points without getting hurt. It's done on the loot stage, which is what we're on right now, where you're supposed to catch the falling loot. He said, I move up to the very top and position myself under my number of men left, which you can see right now. Make sure to keep shooting to the left, because sometimes a baddie will come in from the left. For some reason, I have never seen any baddies coming from the right when he does it this way. So just stay there and rack up the points from shooting the falling X-shaped looking things. So basically they just fall into you and you happen to get points, and then the other ones you just ignore because you can stay doing this forever. He said, shortly after that, I sped up X-Org to make the process happen faster, which you're also seeing right now. But basically, you're pretty well immortal. Just keep going until you wrap the score. It would take a lot longer to do this on a real CoCo in real time.
That is nuts.
You just turn your Black Beauty upside down, have the button rest on the table or whatever, so that you keep shooting.
Yeah, go have lunch.
Yeah, go have lunch. Exactly.
Or you use duct tape. You can just use duct tape on the.
Well, yeah, us red-green fans definitely would, but
No. C-clamp. Not that I've ever used that tactic. C-clamp.
Was it this game that someone figured out how to just get a perpetual fire?
No, that was in Asteroids. I was going to mention that.
Oh, okay.
It only works on BCC.
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
So yeah, that's the cheat in action, greatly sped up, because it does take a while, because you have to wait for the things, the loot to catch it. You have to fall right to where you're sitting. But this basically makes you impervious to harm. Because
I was going to say, it's interesting how many more of the bad guys end up on the screen as you get more points.
Yeah. It's basically to discourage you from trying to do this farming for points, but they didn't have a bad guy actually come up at the very top, so you're safe there.
Yeah. Because I do know that you can. Oh, sound effects?
There is some. I don't. Let me just rewind it a bit here. I think he recorded the sound. Let me check. Yeah, they're pretty rudimentary, but
Although, was it you, Mark, that was saying that it sounds like it's trying to do some rudimentary speech when the level starts?
Yeah, I was hearing some sort of a, you know, at the very beginning of the level.
One of those sound effects sounds like the scorpion in Dungeons and Daggerath.
Here, listen.
That part right there sounds like it's a badly done digitized speech.
Yeah.
The explosion?
Patron segment.
Maybe it just didn't work out, so he just said, "Oh no, that's the sound of the ship crashing."
Yeah, well, this sounds pretty rudimentary, but
Yeah, they get on my nerves after a little while.
yeah, that's why I had it muted before I played the video, honestly.
Oh, but what does it sound like at like 50 times speed?
I don't think, does extra play sound when you crank it that fast? I don't know if it does.
I wondered if Cuthbert wasn't Cuthbert, but they had a speech impediment or something.
Well, the problem with Cuthbert is he changes like even his appearance depending on what game they renamed Cuthbert.
Yeah.
Some of them have nothing to do with each other whatsoever.
Well, we're kind of figuring out the lineage of all the games that so in this one he's killing people, and the next one he's like in prison, then he digs his way out of prison, then he goes walkabout.
Yeah. And then he becomes Pitfall Harry. So yeah.
There we go.
There's a story arc across all the games. That's cool.
There we go.
It's called Make Money.
Hey, there's an idea for a video, the Cuthbert story arc.
Yeah.
Somebody will make a game where he does all that.
Yeah, so basically Cuthbert in Space, not the most popular game we've played. It's got some annoying points, but I have to give it points for them trying to do something a little bit different with that other screen, that text screen.
Yeah, just like you said, it should have had some sort of reward. There wasn't.
Yeah, it should have had some sort of reward. It didn't work. Not getting a reward for doing it just makes it an annoyance rather than a feature.
Yeah. It's basically a delay, from actually playing the game proper, because all you're doing is just holding down two keys to, get up to a certain number, and then holding them the other ones to get back to where you started.
Yeah.
In a time limit, which is pretty boring.
And
exactly.
Keyboard controls on the CoCo 3 were really bad. It like if you're holding the fire button, you couldn't go up or left or something like that. And then later, I figured out how to change the joystick, which was awesome, but I still didn't have time to really get a screenshot of a decent score.
Dave Veery, Mr. Dave 609 says it's as fun as Cuthbert goes to the DMV.
Ooh, I haven't played that one yet. I can't wait.
Is that where you sit in line?
Yeah, you sit in line for 6 hours. That's the game. Yeah. There you go.
How about Cuthbert gets a root canal?
Ooh, a dentistry game. Those are awesome.
One of the best things about having the internet nowadays is you can do like car registrations and driver's license registration renewals all online. You don't even have to go to the DMV anymore. It's the hours the hours that I've saved over the course of the last couple of decades are just amazing.
So you're saying the modern version of Cuthbert goes to the DMV would be just him sitting in front of a computer?
Yeah. Nowadays it would be, yeah.
You just launch a browser and you're done in seconds.
Yeah. You still got to wait 6 hours.
Yeah,
or using the phone.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. If you're older and you have to take an eye test to keep your license, you have to show up.
See, we just have to get our eye test done separately, and then you just take in the results, and that's all you need to prove.
Yep.
And honestly, I mean, I don't know if it's like that in BC, Ken, but I mean, going to the equivalent of the DMV here takes like maybe 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, because they're all privatized. Like they're just all these little
and they're fully staffed. So you just walk in. You might have a lineup of 1 or 2 per person, and you're done in second. Well, not second, but like literally 1 or 2 minutes. You're done. You're gone. There's no hours wait. I don't know why that's that way in the States. But I have been in the lineup in the States.
also depends where you live. In the bigger cities, the lines are going to be longer. Like the DMV here where I live, I live in a small town, and so there's hardly anyone ever in there. So,
Well, that's the trick here in Wisconsin. You leave Milwaukee, for instance, and go out to Janesville, and the line's 3 people.
Well,
you
like
do your
being in-
business, and you're back home before you would have went to the local DMV and waited in line.
With me being being out in Vancouver, with us, basically anybody that sells insurance can do DMV stuff. So, right by where I live, there's I'm within a 5-minute walk of 6 places that I can do my DMV stuff. So,
it was DMV. It was DMV in Rochester. When I moved here, it's DMW or something, DWM or something. It's wacky.
Yeah.
Well, in Ohio, we have the BMV, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Well, now I'm going to try and steer us back to some games.
Is this a CoCo show?
No, I want to hear more about the DMV.
Well,
I will mention one comment from Scott Cooper. He said the only thing I liked about the game was the fast shooting. So he wasn't impressed at all.
Yeah. Fast shooting.
Yeah.
But the fast shooting
it was
really fast.
Yeah. I wouldn't rate it a terrible game. I would just rate it as a average game.
It's still better than we can do, probably, some of us here.
It's better than a lot of games I played on some other consoles. I'm not going to mention the Commodore 64's name. Oops.
And it's a lot better than a game about atomic particles that some Australians programming. So, it's got some benefits.
I was going to say it's at least better than WeFax.
Really?
Oh, well. How many Neutroid put downs is that this episode? Is anyone keeping track?
I think they're up to 72.
About 57.
It's only 17. Come on, you guys.
Hey, there's still more show to go. It'll get higher. Don't worry.
Anyways, so the other game that we were playing was Asteroids RX. And I guess that a few people have found some bugs in that game, Curtis.
Yes, Buck and Taz, of course. Because they find all the bugs in all the games. Because they're based on score.
Breaking games for as long as the Game On Challenge has been around.
Yeah. So I have some updates to mention on that. They've been going back and forth and getting people to test it on real hardware, testing it on emulators, etc. And there was definitely several bugs, and Pear's kind of been busy with some home stuff he's doing at the same time, so he hasn't had time to even try to dig out his machine. So he's been, kind of blindly sending updates, and I've been kind of kept in the loop on those. As it stands right now, the latest release that Pear sent us to test, which was yesterday, the day before, appears to work perfectly fine on a CoCo 1 and 2 now. All the bugs seem to be eliminated. The CoCo 3 will work as long as you do that run at 1 on the CoCo SDC. It will not run from SDC DOS. It'll crash. But once you do that, it works. But right now, I've got some reports from Ron Klein, who's one of the people helping test it as well, that basically if you have a CoCo VGA, it crashes for some reason. And he's trying with the Gimme X, which I think he said if you do that run at 1 now works too. But I'll have to double check. I haven't totally caught up with that. But
okay, and we just download the latest patches from itch.io.
They're not on there yet. Alan, the person who originally wrote it for the Spectrum, is waiting just to make sure that we've got this as compatible as possible.
Okay.
And all the bugs are fixed. And as soon as that, he'll put it up on the itch.io page, which should be within the next day or two, over the weekend sometime.
All right. Sounds good.
But most of these bugs did not show up until you got like 15, 20,000 points, which most of us never get to, except for those two.
Yeah. So most of us don't have to worry.
Us mere mortals.
Now, as Mark did point out, I personally found a little, I'll call it a quirk when I'm playing Asteroids. So I was playing it on VCC. And if I hold down the fire button, it fires rapidly like it's supposed to. But then if I click off of VCC and then click back on it, the fire is stuck on. I can't turn it off. So I don't have to hold the button down anymore. So I free up a hand for a beer.
Yeah, that's a quirk in VCC. That's a bug in VCC, actually. I've hit that on other games, not just Asteroids RX. So
okay. So yeah, so if you want to be able to drink beer while playing Asteroids, then just put it on VCC, click off, click back on, you've got auto fire just permanently stuck on, so you can sit there, drink beer, and only have to use one hand to control.
I love how Ken's promoting alcoholism for this game. That's just awesome.
Makes the game go faster.
Okay, sorry. It doesn't necessarily have to be a beer. It could be whiskey.
You could be. How about this? You could be eating lunch while you're playing at the same time.
Hey, don't be intruding on my territory here. Come on.
Now Curtis is going to be able to get a really good score because he will be able to eat lunch while playing this game.
We should just say game responsibly.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank the CoCo community for kind of stepping up on these bugs because, like I said, Para was. I think he's a little bit embarrassed because he did test the game before he released it to Alan to release on his site, but he didn't play it with that high of a score type thing. He got to like 9,000, 10,000, made sure the free man thing worked, and everything was working fine up till that point. So we figured it's done. And then I think Nick, you hit this too with Jumpin' Joey, didn't you? That's when Buck went a couple levels higher than you can get to, and bang! Now there's a bug where it freezes the game there too.
That's right. Yeah.
So he's now Para knows who to send the game to test.
Yeah, Taz and Buck, but one of the two of them will find bugs.
Yep,
if any exists. So
if there's a score related bug.
Yeah, and Ken, for those who missed last week's show and want to partake in this, especially when the fixed release comes out later this weekend, where did they get it? And there's some special things here, like this one you actually have to buy because it's a brand new release.
Yes, it's a brand new game. You have to buy it. It's at itch.io, and if you do buy it, you also get the Spectrum version. So if you have a Specky
or an emulator,
I don't have the ad. Marco, do you have the address there? You could post that in the chat.
I will momentarily.
Thank you very much, sir.
And by the way, Sixie Kieran, the author of X-War, his comment is beer.
Oh, and by the way, when I say drink a beer while you're playing the game, I'm not advocating that if you're ever up in space, flying a ship, shooting asteroids, that you should be drinking.
Pretty good landing, man.
Just a couple of Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so.
But you're not going to last long anyway.
Yeah, so that's going to be posted.
Oh, Buck is saying you have to do that @1 thing on the CoCo 2 as well. Did you guys encounter that? You couldn't launch from the SDC Explorer?
Don't look at me.
Okay.
I don't think anybody else has tried it on the CoCo 1 or 2.
Yeah, you should use the run out one on both. If you have to use it anywhere, use it on both.
Okay.
All right, so the itch.io address is there, and I will also post that again in the Discord channel for the Game On Challenge.
Yep, and you guys can get the current release with the bugs just to get familiar with the game because it does play okay.
Yeah, and honestly, unless you're Buck or Taz, you're probably never going to encounter the bug.
Yeah, you should be able to play, kind of get familiar with the controls, and then when the full, the fixed release comes out within a day or two here, hopefully, then you can just grab that. It's just a free download update, basically. But we'll let people know on the Discord once it's released.
Now, let's talk about Thursday night. Thursday night, I will attempt to show my slideshow of Thursday night. Since there's nobody here. Mr. Sloopy is not here right now, I don't think. Nope, he's not. So I will share.
I think he likes your slideshow. That's why he never shows up anymore. So
there we go. So Thursday night, we had a few people in playing, both Asteroids and Cuthbert in Space. And eventually, I believe it was Coconut Bob moved on and started playing all the different Cuthbert games. So, because he got pretty sick of Cuthbert in Space.
I was still struggling with the controls.
Yeah, they're a bit awkward in the CoCo 3 because of the arrow keys. Go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
Hint.
Yeah, key fix will solve that problem for you with a switch.
Yes, and actually, Cuthbert in Space, you could just use a joystick too.
Now, does Asteroids RX does it support joystick?
I don't think so, but it does have programmable keys, so you can make your keys whatever you want.
Ah, good.
So you can do the arrow cluster.
The asteroid is moving really fast. That's great.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder, are those polygons or are they sprites? I mean, graphics.
I have no idea.
I can't remember. I was looking at the code for that, and I can't remember if that was actually just like a scaled shape or if it's just a raw shape for each of the sizes of asteroids. I'd have to take a look at it again.
That's pretty great.
Probably a scaled shape because there's only really 2 shapes of asteroids there.
Yeah, but to keep the game
That's true,
speed up,
yeah.
he might have it pre-rendered at the 3 sizes just so it doesn't have to do the extra math.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has to
You've
do the
got the RAM.
masking
That's the best way to
otherwise.
do it.
I'm pretty sure it's all XOR'd if I remember, but it doesn't do a neat trick though. I found out for CoCo 1 and 2s, you have the ability of doing the full double speed up like the CoCo 3 has, right? Where you speed up the RAM and the ROM, so it's running full 1.78 megahertz. But then the screen goes nuts because the VDG and the SAM can't handle that in conjunction. But if you tell it to turn on full double speed as it's doing the V blank, like basically once the raster gets to the bottom and it quits drawing and has to go back to the top of the screen to start redrawing, he actually kicks it into full double speed so we can figure out where the asteroids are moving, where your bullets have gone, and all that kind of stuff at double speed, and then he turns it back to normal mode to actually do the drawing part. So you're actually doing the full high speed poke in there, 60 times per second.
That's
For
awesome.
little blips there to increase the speed of the game.
And
There's
also, I do want to mention there's 2 modes that you can play in on asteroids, either shield or the warping one.
Hyperspace, yeah.
Transporting one, hyperspace, and you can play either one. Scores are accepted for either version. Whichever.
Everybody I've talked to so far much prefers the shield. I don't know. Is that your case, Ken?
Me too. Oh, because you don't run. The problem with the hyperspace one is you just randomly end up somewhere on the screen and usually get killed right away.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Right, in the arcade cabinet, you had the 2 different buttons. I didn't even know where the hyperspace button was.
Never used it.
And one of the nice things in it is that you do have your shield is limited, but it's only limited on every level. So if you use up all your shield on one level, as soon as you kill all the rocks, you've got a brand new shield.
I remember if Star Blaster did that too, because they gave you 5 seconds that you could use. I can't remember when it recharged.
So basically, you don't have to be chintzy with your shield. Just
That's definitely a well done port, and it's kind of like borrowing some asteroids and some asteroids deluxe with the shield thing. So
yeah, it's definitely worth it if you're especially if you're an asteroids fan.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, Thursday nights, people come out and play. Starts at I guess
8 p.m. Eastern.
8 Eastern. Yeah, I was going to say that. I just had to think about it. especially since I showed up 2 hours early for it this week. I forgot I wasn't in Vancouver.
What's the website address? You can download it again.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Okay, I'll look at
it. And it will also be posted in the Discord channel.
Yeah, as soon as Ron finishes testing the last couple of machines just to see which ones are a little bit quirky. It seems stuff with third-party graphic enhancement hardware are the only ones that are having problems at this point. But it now works in emulators and on standard CoCo 1, 2s, and 3s. So I think that's good enough for most people. And we'll have to figure out if there's some weird timing glitch or what's going on with the CoCo VGA and the Gimme X.
So that is our game for another week is Asteroids RX. Does anybody want to see what our game for the next 2 weeks is going to be?
Yes.
Just for fun, I'm going.
No,
back
and why
to
2 weeks?
I'm going back to an old classic.
Oh, this is a Terry Steen game.
Yep. Anybody know what this one is other than Curtis? Because I know Curtis knows it.
Not me. I don't think I've seen it before.
I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head, though. It's from
Is that
T&D
the one where you
Software.
run into the couch?
So this is called Balloon Fire. You're the arrow at the top, and the balloons are coming out of the things at the bottom, and you have to pop them before they get to the top of the screen. So it's a top-down shooter.
Oh, I assumed that you were the thing at the bottom shooting upwards.
Nope, you're the thing at the top shooting down, and the balloons are floating up towards you.
Okay.
Those little blue things are the arrows you're firing.
Yeah.
On the screenshot.
So that is the title screen, Balloon Fire by Terry Steen.
Balloon Fire.
Yeah, when we interviewed Terry, we talked about this game for a bit too.
We did, yeah.
Oh, Buck Owens just reported. He said, "Just tried Asteroids RX with the CoCo DV, which is Alan 8-bit Alan. What's the name of his site there?
8-bit in the basement.
No.
Alan.
AC's
There's so many
8-bit zones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Too many 8-bits.
But he said he just tried with the CoCo DV, which is what the video solution that Alan's made for hooking up to HDMI, et cetera, and it works fine on there. He said it looks great with monochrome mode. So that one will be safe on the new version, so that's good. Just have to wait for Ron on the CoCo VGA and the GMX. Everything else seems to be working though. So I would expect the update to be up probably, might even be later today, depending. Well, actually, no, he's in Spain, so what time would they be there? It might be a bit late, so it might be tomorrow.
Middle of the night tonight, we'll say.
Yeah. I just phone him long distance, wake him up. No, I'm just kidding.
We want our asteroids.
Yeah. Well, if he gets more sales out of it, he may not mind. I don't know.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about the Game On Challenge this week. So
okay,
be there on Thursday night, everybody.
Now, Balloon Fire is joystick driven, if I remember correctly. CoCo 1 or 2 or 3 game. Artifact colors make it look nicer, but not necessary if you're not capable of displaying that. And I think it's only 16K required, isn't it?
I don't think
it
so.
needs 32.
I'm just taking a quick look at it.
Yeah, some idiot Canadian site might tell you.
Yeah, that's usually where I go for my misinformation.
Ice people?
Did he review Balloon Fire? I can't remember.
No,
You can,
just messing with you.
Color computer 1, 2, or 3, 32K RAM, but
32K.
it doesn't say that you need a joystick, so you should be able to control from keyboard as well. It's just back and forth.
Either that, or I forgot to mention his joystick required because
I don't think it is joystick. I think it's arrow keys.
Was it? Okay.
I think it's
I haven't played it in a long time, so
because it's just 3 keys. It's fire and back and forth.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if you want to get a really good score on it, just hook up a
VCC
Atari
and
paddle.
go off the window.
No, hook an Atari paddle up to it, and that's how everybody always beats these games.
Really?
Breaks them. Yeah.
I prefer the analog joystick I over a paddle. It takes too long to actually turn it.
So
I can just like flip it back and forth with flick of the wrist type thing.
Balloon Fire bot?
Balloon bot, yeah.
Just go moving your guy back and forth and firing constantly.
I'm just waiting to see what Buck and Taz are going to find for cheating on that game, and they'll have to tell Terry.
I give it till Tuesday before they figure something out.
Okay, well, thanks,
right.
Ken. I'm sorry for the missing Sloopy here, but he's actually been on all the live streams on Thursdays, right?
Yeah, no, that's no problem. That's just razzing him if he watches this back.
Oh no, continue the razzing. Don't get me wrong there, but
yeah. I don't mind trying to show. I don't even know how was my video coming through.
Actually, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was slowed down in spots there, but we didn't like lose your voice or anything like you did last time.
Right.
I've got a little bit better internet here now. I've captured a second squirrel for my internet, so I got 2 wheels going now.
Sweet. 2 squirrel power.
That's from an 18-wheeler truck or what?
So instead of horsepower, it's squirrel power.
Yeah, I got 2 little hamster wheels with squirrels in them.
You just got to soak the acorns in coffee and give it to them, then they'll really get you on.
Where they go?
I just feed them straight coffee grounds.
Oh, there you go. Just don't
right out of
accidentally
the
give them
bag.
decaf.
How do they keep the wheel from squeaking? WD-40.
Unfortunately, I give them too many hot coffee grounds and their hearts explode, but
Outside of that.
You're asking for PETA, aren't you?
Yeah.
Bring it
Gonna get a
on.
complaint right away.
All right, time for commercial break.
Sure. I can
Sure.
use,
Go ahead
I can
and-
use some
guess.
coffee, see what I can get my heart rate up to.
Hello, this is Mark Siegel, product manager for the Color Computer product line and designer of the Tandy Color Computer 3. And I'm proud to be a citizen of the CoCo Nation.
Shall we play a game?
Making games for the CoCo for over 35 years. Go to my CoCo Games website at www.nickmarentes.com for information and pricing of my later games, as well as downloads of many of my older games.
CoCo 2's got personality, lots of practicality, fun, it's sensational, learn it's educational. CoCo 2's expandable, so easily commendable. It's programmable, so term exam grammable. Just you and CoCo 2 do what you want to do.
CoCo 2, the color computer with personality from Radio Shack. Sale price for Christmas giving from $149.95.
Radio Shack's CoCo 2, do what you want to do. Just you and CoCo 2.
Okay, you guys are seeing the screen. It mentions Jim Gary at the bottom.
Hey.
Okay, so first on the Game On news. So Jim's been busy this last week.
I don't know. I see this thing about this lady who shot Lennon.
What?
What are you looking at?
Bottom corner of the screen.
Oh, yeah, YouTube's.
Oh.
Thinking what I want to watch here.
The horrific execution.
That's the next game by Jim Gary. Haven't you heard?
Okay, continue.
Okay. So the first one that Jim did this past week is called Mind Busters. This was originally written by Ned W. Schultz and appeared in the April 1985 issue of Computer Magazine. This was originally written for PC Basic. So GWiz Basic, I'm presuming. This is a sliding row column game with graphical patterns where you try and solve it in the least amount of time. So this is actually a popular, was made of a little plastic one, I think, at first, and it's got multiple skill levels, etc. I used to get them like for free in cereal and stuff, but basically it does this randomly generate pattern instead of using little number squares. and you have to slide them around by column or row to try to match the pattern on the right, or to match the one on the right to the left. So you're kind of like trying to recreate it. So I've seen a lot of these. There used to be one in OS9. Rick, you probably remember it too. It was the numbered version of it where you had the one empty spot and you'd slide 1 to 15 around trying to get it in order. So this one is using graphical patterns, so it's a little bit different, but basically the same style game. That's number 1. Number 2 is called Adventure Without a Name, which is kind of a lie because it's called Adventure Without a Name. It's got a name. So this is a text adventure game originally by A. Sumner in the 1986 book called Bumper Book of Programs, Volume 2. That was published by Your Microcomputer. And I'm not sure if this is the same Your Microcomputer that was a British magazine for multiple platforms. It was actually weekly, or if it's a different one, maybe from North America. I'm not positive on that one. But it does have a nice little intro screen where you kind of drew a cave here using semi-graphics and just SG4. And then it goes straight into a standard text adventure game type thing. So I won't play too much of that because we've all seen lots of text adventure games. And it makes for boring radio for the audio listeners. And then the third one, this is kind of an interesting one. It's Donkey.Bass. Now, for those of you who know a bit of the history of the IBM PC and Microsoft, this was a sample program that Bill Gates himself actually worked on along with another guy named Neil Konzen in 1981. It was kind of a demo game to show off GWiz Basic. So basically, because Bill was also involved with Extended Basic on the CoCo, which is kind of what beget the GWiz Basic, because a lot of the stuff that we got, like Paint and Play and Draw, all showed up on ours first and then went to GWiz Basic after being done on the CoCo. So it's kind of like bringing it back the other way, where Jim has actually grabbed their Donkey Bass program and converted it back to the MC10. And he's using semi-graphics, so the GWiz Basic's using like high-res 320 by 200 or whatever. And you can find tons of videos of this here. But basically, it's just, you're driving on this road and you switch between lanes. And as you progress further and further, your car goes up higher in the screen. So you have less and less reaction time to not hit the animal, the donkey in this case. And then you get, score. But the donkey gets a score and you get a score as to, how many ones you pass or hit type thing. And it doesn't run too bad of a clip, for a basic game. Actually animates the road, not too bad. So, bit of a history on that one, anyway.
Looks more like a moose than a back donkey to me.
Right. It's a leg short.
Could be an elk. Yeah, could be a bison. Could be a cow. Who knows? It's low res. Make it up.
Three-legged cow.
Right. Or, well, we won't go there.
Politely said.
All right, so that's 3 new games you can try that Jim Gary ported just this last week. So next up, TRC Retro Computer Programming posts an update to Tales of Suburbia. This is where he's kind of going through his plans for stage 4 and his plans for finishing the game. So he's adding some stuff here. So this one here is showing like one of the newer scenes where he's actually got kind of a kitchen table, chairs and stuff, and fairly drawn well for P mode 1, I think it is. And of course, he's been fiddling with all the different P copy and stuff here to speed things up. And so he's planning on getting it done fairly soon. It should run on a 32K or higher extended basic CoCo. It's set up right now because he always used cassette when he had his CoCo back in the day. So he's actually set up to be 4 different programs that you load for each of the levels as you go through in cassette. I think Jim Mullis and I are going to try to teach him how to use disk so he can make this a bit easier for the disk users, which is like 99% of us. Question for you guys. By the time the CoCo 2 had came out and the prices had started falling for the CoCo, or even the CoCo 3 are, for that matter, how many of you, like post 1983, 84, still use cassette? I'm just kind of curious. I was on disk by about late 82, early 83, so I never went back after that. But I was just wondering for the rest of you who may have came into the CoCo a little bit later, did you start with cassette, or were disk drive prices cheap enough you started with disk and just went from there?
Well, we didn't get a CoCo till 84, and we used cassette for several years. I don't remember exactly when we got a disk drive, but we were late to the show, I guess.
Okay. Would you have still been on cassette before the CoCo 3 came out, or?
No, we had no, by the time we got, we had a disk drive at some point before we got a CoCo 3.
Okay.
Fred here. So I got my first CoCo 2 at the end of 1983, and we had a cassette. We only had cassette, I think, for maybe about 2 years. Definitely had a disk drive before I got the CoCo 3 in 87. But yeah, I'd say a couple of years, at least until 1985, we used cassette. Andark 1, by the way, was written on cassette. So whenever the third Rainbow Adventure contest was, I think it was 85. I was still on cassette by then.
I got a question on cassette where they had the leader while it was coming in, you'd get a graphic to come up. They can't reproduce that on disc, can they?
Yep. It usually goes by so fast you can't see it, but yeah, it still works fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because it loads so much quicker, unless you have the program specifically pause it.
Just wondered.
Okay, no, that's interesting to note. I guess a lot of people in our club, like everybody was kind of pushing disc, amongst other people there, and some people would upgrade to a 40 track or double-sided drive, and they'd sell their old single-sided to one of the club members for dirt cheap. You just had to get the controller. So I think a lot of us upgraded pretty quick. But we had a pretty big users group. Like I know, Ron, you mentioned your users group was around 80 people or something, and I think ours here is around 60 to 80 ourselves.
Yeah.
Back then, so maybe it just depended where you were too.
Yeah, I wasn't in a club. And disk drive systems were rather expensive, I thought, at the time. So more I think about it, the more I think it was 85 when I got a disk system.
Okay. Getting some comments in the chat too. So Jim Rice says cassette only from 82 to 83. For me, it was 81 through 80, late 82 or early 83. I can't remember the exact date. Dave Varied, Mr. Dave 609 says, I was stuck with cassette until 1988. And then 60 Kieran, the author of X-Roar, he says at least 1989 here. I forget exactly, but I have Dragon users that date it after that. And that is one thing that was quite different in the UK and European market. All the platforms there, whether it was a Spectrum or a BBC or Acorn or Dragon or whatever it was, they stuck with cassette probably about half a decade after the rest of, after North America went up. I think it pretty well waited till the 16-bit era before most people started getting disk drives like, Atari STs and Amigas and stuff. Just because it would, to load a program that takes 512K off cassette would take you days. But
I noticed you said one of the parameters for one of the games was 32K CoCo. How many people have, maybe in this group here, or know of someone that has a 32K CoCo? Because I certainly don't. It's either 16K or 64. I've never had. Weren't they kind of rare, 32?
They're fairly popular when the E-board, the E-revision motherboard was out. They really were 64K, most of them. Some of them had half bad RAM chips, but honestly, I'd say about 90%, 80% had fully fine 64K chips. You just had to slightly modify the board to enable it and run software. That's all you had to do.
Mine was sold as 32, but it always had 64. I just never knew it until I found the RAM disk program in the Rainbow and tried it, and it worked.
Yeah. Well, Frank Hogg was very famous for publishing in Color Computer News, I think February of 83. He had an article called 64K for free. And that was precisely it. You'd go buy a 32K RAM machine from Tandy. It would be an E-board. And he gave you the test program and everything else to actually test if the 64K RAM worked. And like I said, 89% of the time it did. Some of the very early upgrades, I think, actually did not. They had the half bad RAMs, but most of the time the RAM was fine.
Well,
and
then,
yeah. Go ahead,
in the
Rick.
days before RAM, 32K, 64K, what was the difference to the average user?
Well, if you were trying to run Flex, it made a huge difference, or OS 9.
Well, but basic, 32K was the biggest you could go in basic as far as anyone knew.
Yeah. Now, I think like when Frank Hogg and Spectral brought out Flex, which would have been in early 82, maybe late 81, those are the first ones that kind of required it. Because I remember reading on 6-8 Microjournal that they were actually telling people how to do a 64K upgrade, even on a D board or a C board, specifically so you could run Flex or run OS 9.
Well, yeah, because now you got to dump the ROMs and load an OS. So, yeah, you need that another 32K now, but you didn't need it before. And Yeah.
Oh, they never made badges for 32K, right?
Yeah,
It
they
was
did.
always 4.
32K
16.
extended. I have a friend of mine that actually had an e-board with 32K extended little
Well,
badge.
I'd love to see one.
Not the actual full Tandy Radio Shack badge, but the little
No, I know.
RAM.
Yeah.
Yeah, his said 32K. He doesn't have it anymore, but yeah, I distinctly remember it because he had it for years.
That would be a rare one,
I don't
wouldn't it?
remember those.
Yeah, the D board ones only went to 16, so the same with the C's. The E had the 32K, and then after the F board was basically designed for 64. That's what the the TDP 100 and the 64K CoCo with the melted keyboard, the full size one came out with and stuff. So yeah, it was a very short lived, maybe a year or two.
Would you say that you could have a computer that was 32K, but you wouldn't know it now because it's been upgraded before you got it?
Well, they were, like I said, internally they were basically 64K anyway most of the time. It's just that they sold it by what Basic could access.
Okay.
And that was something that I remember some of the CoCo people arguing that, this Commodore 64, they said, that's false advertising. You don't get 64K through Basic. Well, yeah, but you do through ML, so it's right. Same with us type things. So now I got a couple comments in the chat here, a couple of really interesting ones here. First one was 6C says, I think most BBC Micro owners had disk drives because they had money. It's kind of like buying Apple IIs in North America. If you had one, you're rich. You can afford a drive.
Yeah, you can get there.
Mark Siegel said there's a lot of CoCo 1s with 32K because the e-board was the first, hugely popular one. So I would agree with that. Tom Eric Gunderson said, that's a myth, Curtis. At least in Norway, most people had disk drives. I had for my Dragon, my Amstrad, and my C64. All I knew with C64s had disk drives. 60, I'm sure you can probably respond to that. From me talking, like when we talked to some of the Dragon people on the Dragon special, I don't think any of them had disk drives until the late 80s. Like almost all of them stuck in cassette because I think the prices were too high. Yeah, something interesting to hear what is maybe it's just the UK and maybe just certain countries in Europe that had the price kind of out of reach for most people. That's cool. I didn't realize there was some European countries that actually did get into disk drives. Okay, next up, the CoCo Show, episode 46 from Boat and Aaron has been released, and it features, talk about 60 again. So Kieran Zanscom's port of Dungeons to the CoCo and Dragon. And I'll just play a little bit of the intro for those of you who are unaware of the show, because it's a bit tongue-in-cheek humor, but plus you can get to see some of the actual gameplay here.
It's not Gauntlet. It's not Gantlet. It's Dungeons on the CoCo Show.
Here, a little sneak preview. Now, I remember, Ken, have we covered Dungeons on Game On Challenge?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, cool. I could not remember. Tom says, maybe it's because we were filthy rich in Norway. Anyway, it's a really good review of that. Dungeons also has a bit of a special status in the CoCo 1 and 2 community, especially because it is the only CoCo 1 and 2 game that I know of that allows 4 players simultaneous play. Even Gantlet only did 3. Gantlet 2 for the CoCo 3 had 4 players, but you had a slightly bigger keyboard, more keys to fiddle with. So, but that was the only one that I know of. Okay, next up, and now any of you guys who have a experience with a Mister, I'd like to hear your opinions on this. So this is a channel called Tom's Toys with 1 subscriber, and I think he watches the show, but I'm not positive. But he did a video here of using the Mister with the Dragon 32 and the CoCo 1, 2, 3 cores, and he points out some bugs and issues that he's hit. All the demonstrations he's done here is based on Donkey King. And he said it does the same if you have the King, the slightly later version when they got in a bit of legal trouble with the name. Where you can go moving left and right is just fine. You can jump just fine. You can climb up the ladders just fine. But for some reason, the joystick controls on the Mister will not let you go down. So you're stuck. Like if you go up in the rivet screen, for example, if you go up to the top on one side and you come back down, you can't come back down on the other side to finish anything. So I'm wondering for any of you here that have actually played with the Mister, the CoCo cores, have you guys hit any of this, or is this an installation problem perhaps, or I'm not sure. I do notice the artifacting's pretty old-fashioned. And I think there's multiple cores too, because I think Roger Taylor does one, and there's also it's a commercial one, and then there's the free ones as well.
I've seen people play on the Mist or play the CoCo games, and I've never heard of them ever complaining about a problem, but I've never done it myself.
Okay, so I'm wondering if maybe just specific games have some quirky thing, like Photon had a problem until Tim Linder figured out, they were doing some really wicked fine timing on the PIA switching, which axis of the joystick you were reading. I don't know if Donkey King do anything that fancy, but now Peter Willard in the chat is saying the Mister is great. Tandy CoCo emulation is not perfect, so he's kind of, I guess, verifying that there are some issues with it. I mean, he goes in kind of a deep dive and demos what some of the issues are. So he mentions the artifacting's like way behind for most current emulators. It's just the raw black, white, red, blue type thing.
So
And
basically, it just goes to show you have to use real hardware.
Yeah.
Forget about these emulators. Go real hardware.
Well, this is hardware. This is a Mister, right? It's an FPGA.
Well, it's not real hardware though. It's not an actual CoCo.
It's real hardware. It's just not real CoCo hardware.
It's running it's hardware running an emulation of the CoCo.
Yeah.
And now you've seen a war in Canada.
Yeah. Scott Cooper says that would be a sight to see, watching 4 people crowd around a CoCo to play a game at the same time. We got to do that at CoCo Fest. We've had a few 3-player ones, like you can play Rampage or Gauntlet with 3 players, but Gauntlet 2 on a CoCo 3 or Dungeons on a CoCo 1 and 2 with 4 people, 2 on joysticks, 2 on the keyboard simultaneously. That would be interesting to watch. I have to agree. We need to do that. Next up, David Mitchell of Davy's Retro Corner on YouTube, and he's also active in the Dragon group on Facebook as well. Released a video of a typing game called Stunt Cycle, which is based on what is the name of the arcade game? I'm pulling a blank.
Actually typed in
Motorcycle Jump or something. Yeah. Anyway, it's from a book called 60 Programs of the Dragon 32, and originally written by Paul Stanley, the Dragon port by E.A. Jackson, and then Davey typed it in, so it's actually up and running. And it's the one where you go through you have to adjust the speed of your bike as it's driving across these different lanes, and you accelerate and decelerate. And if you over jump, you die. If you under jump, you die. So you have to kind of get it at the right speed. I've seen versions of this on other machines. I've even seen other versions of this on the CoCo, to be honest.
This is the coin-op. This is the coin-op Atari Stunt Cycle from 1976.
That's the name. Thank you. That's the one I can remember.
I actually did one of these for the CoCo because it was easy to do in BASIC. This is how I learned get put buffers and things.
Yeah. The only issue I have with this one, like it plays quite quickly, which is actually quite nice, is that the jumping part is just straight up like square wave, like it's straight up across, straight down.
You got to do
no
a little
sine or
math
cosine to do a gradual. Which I've seen some other versions on the CoCo actually do that, but I mean, this is not bad for a type-in book where you're getting 60 programs for like $10 or whatever. So,
Player's graphics pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's done fairly well. I don't think he's using the fast get put buffers with the even byte boundary trick to speed things up. I'm guessing. I didn't read it that fast as it was going by there, but I also like his new animated. Please like and subscribe there. He did on a CoCo.
You have to teach them the inverse space poke to get the green space.
Yeah. A couple of comments here. Peter Willow said they argue that Mister is real hardware emulation versus software emulation, though they just need to get the hardware right. True, I guess. Tamar Edison says Paul Stanley of KISS is the one that did this game. No, it's not. 60 said looks like Daredevil Dennis. I'm assuming that must be a Dragon version of that same game. Like I said, I've seen multiple ones on the CoCo. I've seen some from, it was either Chromaset or T&D had one they published it in BASIC too.
I mean, how many people saw that arcade coin-op game in '76 that went on?
Yeah, there was black and it was a grayscale game if I remember. Low res,
right?
too,
And they had like a color plastic thing over the black and white screen, so it had tubes leading to the next level. But how many people saw that and therefore did what I did? Hey, I can do that with get put buffers in BASIC.
Yeah.
people were.
I didn't convert that one, but there were several others from that time period I did do that with. Unfortunately, I've lost them over the years. Oh, 60 saying, nah, Daredevil Dennis was a BBC micro game. Okay. And if you want to actually get it here, you can download it from his GitHub, and he's actually got the source code for BASIC here, so you can actually fiddle with it yourself if you want to. And a screenshot.
That's neat.
So that'd be an interesting one for somebody who wants to try to, learn how to use those even byte boundary get put buffers, which run, 2 to 3 times faster than regular ones. You might be able to speed the game up a bit. Might be an interesting experiment.
Also tempting to mess with it to fix up that kind of jump, the square jump.
Yeah, put a little bit of a sine wave into it.
We have floating point math. Yeah, we should use that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he thought it was going to slow it down too much. And plus, it's just easier to just go straight up, straight across, straight down.
I wrote this, and the time in the air, it goes too fast anyway. If you play this back, you'll see it jumps too fast. The time it takes to compute the arc a little bit.
No, slow it down to an actual.
But it actually makes it kind of match what it's supposed to be doing. So yeah.
But if it does a curve, it's going, even if it goes lower, it's kind of like the slow motion of action. It would be cool.
Yeah, like watching the $6 Million Man when he's supposedly running really fast and they slow him down instead because it looks more dramatic.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You just need the sound effects. Yeah.
It's funny how that works, how slowing it down gives you the illusion that it's speeding up.
Right.
Well, to go off on a tangent, because we never do that on this show. I remember when the very first episode, $6 Million came out, they actually did just try to speed up the film, and it just looked ridiculous. Like he was pushing Rudy Wells in a wheelbarrow or something in one episode because he couldn't walk or something. I can't remember. And they sped up the film like 4 times, and it just looks retarded.
Yeah, we ain't doing that no more.
Yeah, so I had bought them like free time. Now you don't have to shoot as much because something you filmed and took like a minute to film is now 3 minutes of actual TV show. So you just saved a whack load of money too.
Yep.
Okay, and then Davey, you did another one. This one's called Box Driver. Now this is a standard style where you basically have parameters of a road shifting back and forth and shrinking as you drive further. Yeah, basically it's just a screen scroll and you have to steer your box in it. So this is one of those ones you can do in very few lines of code. So what you're looking at on the screen here right now, 7 lines of basic and only 1 or 2 of them are fairly long. That's the entire program. That's the entire game. So it's kind of nice, having something you can type in quick, especially if you're trying to learn, how to type for the first time. So it starts fairly wide. You steer back and forth. You're steering the V. The X's are like the sides of the road, and you'll notice it gets narrower and winds around. So it's basically your standard basic style game like this. Some people have done these with semi-graphics and.
What a coincidence! I've been working on a game similar to this lately. And yeah, it's like about 10 lines long.
Yeah, and he's only got 7 on this one. Keyboard controls.
Oh, okay, yeah, even better.
We should run a competition of coding games like this at some point.
Isn't there one? I think there was.
Yeah, there's a few. There's the 10-liner contest, which is open to multiple platforms. The 1-liner contest, the 2-liner contest.
Oh no, I mean the vertical scrolling, the inverse vertical scrolling thing. Not necessarily 1-liner, 10 lines.
Oh,
but,
specifically vertical scrolling type games. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Especially these inverted print one, which is very peculiar to these machines. I think everybody did one game like this in one's life.
Oh yeah,
right?
I did multiple games like this. One thing I should do is actually just make a little package for people that want to write, low-res semi-graphics games like this for the CoCo, is actually just release a little tiny basic ML loader that lets you actually do up, down, left, right scrolling. You exec this and it'll shift it, whatever direction you want type thing. And then, people could write, scrolling landscape games that are huge. But since the screen's only half a K, you'd have room for like dozens, even in basic. So that might be something to do at some point.
We need.
And once again, you can get the source code here. If typing in 7 lines is just too much for you, even then, you can go download the actual source listing and cheat. Next up here, actually, I'll show this screen first. So Fabrizio Caruso, who's the person behind CrossLib, which is a cross compiler. It's similar to the Inafudo that we've covered from Japan, where they have this basic language they've written. I shouldn't say basic. They have a language they've written that lets you, generate code once, and it automatically gets converted to like 40 to 200 different platforms, different retro machines, video game consoles, old home computers, etc. So he's been doing CrossLib even longer than we've known about Inafudo, and this is his 7th game he's now released on this platform, and it's called, I'm probably pronouncing this right, Shuriken. And right now it's built for 200 different computers and consoles using the exact same code. So this is one where you don't have to do conversions between them. As he says here in this post on Facebook, in the 8-bit programming and engineering. So he didn't post this in the CoCo group, so you'll have to go hunt it down or get our show notes to get to it. Right now it's currently available in the CoCo in cassette form only. He doesn't have a disc version on there, and I'm trying to remember, I think that's how he's done the other ones too. Hopefully he's actually programmed it in such a way that it will run on a disk system. If not, you'll have to get the ROM-L utility or patch it yourself. But basically, he's got a video here of the VIC-20 version, and I'm going to show it. We don't normally do VIC-20 stuff here, but this is to show you what the gameplay is like. I mean, basically, it'll be similar on the CoCo, just different graphics. That's basically a collect dots, dodge things trying to kill you, and you have a bit of a maze to wander through. You're the blue spinning thing with the circle. You have to pick up the blue and the green diamonds, and you're getting hit there. So and you lose green diamonds, I think, every time you get hit or something like that. I can't remember the exact rules, but and you can see there's multiple mazes, and he actually has a 10-minute video demoing a bunch of the different screens for it. So it's got a fair bit of variety to it. Here you see some other bonus things. You can pick up the white rings. So anyway, if you want to grab that game for the CoCo itself, he's got it up on his GitHub, and you can see all the different versions here. You can actually go through. So if you have a oops, still playing here. Let's kill this window. You guys already know what the game plays like. So if you want to play it like it on an Ace or an Atari or Atari 5200 or a Lynx or C128 or Commodore 64, the CoCo, ColecoVision, CPC, there's quite a few different platforms ready to go here. But as I mentioned before, you'll notice these are cassette images. So sorry.
Booting links? That's impressive.
Yeah, he's cross-platform. I think he said, he's up to 200 platforms. That's even more than Inafudo does. Now, the quality on each of the ports varies pretty wildly from what I've seen previously, because it's got really low common denominators to hit. But he's always trying to do something a bit more original. Like, he's not just cloning games. He's trying to make something a little bit original when he releases them. And this is the 7th one in his series. So, I mean, there's literally 7 games you can get created with this platform for the CoCo. So that's it for the game on news, and I'll just switch right on over to the other one.
You don't want your fire intro?
Didn't you already do that?
No.
Oh.
Not the news.
Well, okay.
Do the fire intro. Let's do it. Let's do it.
When you want the latest in TRS-80, Tandy, Dragon, MC-10, and all of their hardware cousins, no matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCo Nation News with L. Curtis Boyle.
Okay.
Fire's out. I can start now.
Yep, fire's out.
That's it. End of the show.
Okay, so CoCo Town released a couple of videos this week having to do with video on his CoCo 2. So the first one here is he's dug out his real CoCo 2, because the last month or so of stuff he's been doing, experimenting with the T1 VDG and various modes, etc., have all been done on emulators. So this time he actually dragged out his old CoCo 2. So the first thing he discovered when he plugged it into his CRT was, oh my God, the quality in this is crap. So I think, Rick, was it you and some others last week were given, or a few weeks ago, were giving him some suggestions when he was a guest here about things they could do to improve it? And there was like stuff to wrap around the cable.
So
and
here's my CoCo moved back into the CoCo
I'll
room.
lower this a bit. You can talk here.
Most of the stuff I used to have here.
But you remember giving him advice? There was, I can't remember what those things are called, those clampy things.
Ferrite core. For ferrite.
Right, exactly. The little clamp-on cores and so forth to cut the AC off of.
Yeah. I mean, he experimented with several of these as he was going through here, and the ferrite cores did absolutely nothing to improve quality on his case. Going to a much more solid cable did help.
You got a nice cable. Let's see that.
You got to stay away from the power line.
These tend to be pretty high quality cables.
Much better than my CP400 cable.
So there he went. He bypassed the box to like the RF switch box, so he's going directly in.
Into the cable jack on the TV. The picture
and actually, that doesn't look too bad.
Right?
No, it looks fine.
I think he actually compares. Didn't he do a side by side here?
I mean, technically, you could throw a ball in and you would get a little bit sharper, but nobody cares nowadays.
And here he's trying to go through a VCR camcorder to use composite type stuff, and it actually turned out worse, if I remember correctly.
Look at the setup over here. No CRT TV, so I need.
Yeah, like here, it's a blurry mess. Now, part of that, I think he said, was his capture card didn't help either.
No. That's impossible.
And here's the ferrite cores.
What happens when I put this around the wire and just see if at all.
And not much difference. Didn't seem to make a difference pretty well at all, actually. And then a Diamond one-touch video capture card. So this time he upgraded his capture card itself.
Coming from the VCR.
Cool.
So did I?
And I like this part here. This is admitting you made a mistake. Just for those audio listeners there, I'll just read what he put on the screen here at this point. It says, unbeknownst to me, OBS did not capture the output from the Diamond card, probably because hardware acceleration was on. And then he says, just imagine that you're seeing a black and white CoCo screen here. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
So it looks like he put the RF, the ferrite core, on the RCA cable rather than the RF out.
Yeah, he put it on the composite, looks like.
Yeah, it looked like he put it on the composite.
Okay, and you're supposed to put it on what?
The RF out.
Yep, on the RF.
Okay.
Right. But by then he also had his fancy cable on. So yeah, who knows?
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he went to an Elgato, and now this is a little bit better. It's a bit clearer than the last previous ones here, but he still gets much better, going back to the original solution of that direct RF bypassing the box entirely, but not going through a VCR tuner, etc.
Well, that's just scaling. That's bad scaling there.
Well, still better than that previous one because it's not as fuzzed out. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like the B's and the D's here look a little bit scaled.
Well, and the extra wide, it's just not a bad resolution conversion here from what he started.
Does look like that's
you're always going to get problems like that whenever you're trying to do a capture off of RF.
Right.
Yeah. This is definitely better than his first try with the original setup, though, because that was horrible.
When he added the cable, what we were looking at was a direct shot of the TV, and then it got all blurry when he tried to run it through a capture card because most modern capture cards look at the frequency coming out of the CoCo and say, "What the hell is that?"
This ain't nothing to me.
Kind of standard is this? Secret, it's not. So that was the first video he released this week. So that was kind of cool seeing him go through the different things and actually give you some recommendations. Like certain capture cards definitely do make a difference compared to others. So don't cheap out. Bypassing the switch box entirely, or these external tuners for VCRs and stuff, actually seems to make a big difference too. If you guys comment on his video here, so that he knows about the putting those ferrite, whatever you called them, on certain cables, etc.
But on RF, on that red cable, he's already got a nice looking picture, so it's like leave well enough alone.
Right. Don't mess with it. He's got a nice cable. It's doing the job. So
yeah.
Yeah, one of the other things I've noticed is that when he went from the CRT, went to the VCR, is that not all VCRs have really good tuners. So
True.
some of his issues could also be the tuner in the VCR. So
Right. Old VCRs were great, but no one has an old VCR. They've got the end of the run when they were made for $12. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty cool video. If you're looking at how to capture CoCo 1 and 2 output, I mean, there's different alternatives with CoCo 3, of course, because we have RGB and stuff, which you can actually pump in through HDMI, et cetera, so you can actually get a really clear picture. But if you're doing the older CoCo 1 and 2s and you don't have a composite board for it, I mean, this gives you some alternatives to try that might help you if you're doing captures or even trying to get a display on a TV, an older style, tube TV.
Based on some of the experiments I did with Ed Snyder's, Zipster's older prototype RGB to S video adapter he did, I would probably go with the S video. Was it AC that did that? The
CoCo DV, you mean? Or?
No, not the CoCo DV. There was a prototype board someone did with the S video on the 6847 instead of the composite. Was it AC that did that or someone else?
I can't remember. I do remember what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but I don't
Georgia
remember.
guy.
It was AC.
It was? Okay.
Yeah.
Alan.
But yeah, for capture, a couple of the capture units I've got are the S video looks so good on them. And I would go that route over composite.
Well, I've seen some other ones that actually tap RGB right off the VDG chip itself. Wouldn't those even be better yet?
That would probably be better, I guess.
Yeah, I'm asking. I don't know. This is all hardware stuff. I don't understand even what I'm talking about.
From the CP400, from the RF output, you get a pretty good image on tube television, and from the video output, you get a slightly better resolution, but the artifacts get weared off a little bit. They get weakened.
Well, because TVs
probably super video is gonna cut off a lot of those artifact colors. I suppose, right? Not right about that. Not sure.
Well, I do remember the artifact colors is something like the CoCo 3's composite is notoriously bad because they had to like rig it back to get composite because basically the first version of the circuit, they cleaned it up and all the artifact colors were gone. So they kind of had to hack it back and make it worse so the artifact colors worked again.
You're going to say something, Patrick? What was that?
I was just going to say that back in the day, all those CRTs had comb filters, which really sharpened up things and kind of might have made artifacts go away a little bit. Because they were designed to fix the problem that artifacts were exploiting. So, anyway.
Yeah. And then the second video CoCo Town released here is this is using his real CoCo 2 again. Now, I know when he first showed his CoCo 2, and that's got to be a couple of months ago now, I noticed it was a 64K Tandy branded one. And also looking at the font on the screen here, because you have a rounded O and not a square one, and the 0 has a slash through it. I said, yeah, I think you got the T1 VDG, like the true lowercase one. And he wanted to figure out how all this works. So he's done a lot of videos we've covered the last couple of weeks about, in the emulators, basically going through and figure out what modes work, how the border control works, inverse video, true lowercase, etc. Some of the color differences you get between that and a regular VDG. Like if you pick the orange color set for the text, the colors are different between the two. The original VDG would have a sort of a yellow and then a really dark red. And then if you run on a T1, it's basically just duplicating the orange and the dark red, but that special yellow extra color is gone. So he's been kind of going through and doing some assembly language programming for how to control these and learning how they work, etc. So this is his first time. He kind of mentioned when I mentioned this back a month and a half ago or a month ago or whatever it was, that he was going to do the final part of this series on going through the VDG stuff was to see if his CoCo 2 actually has the true lowercase T1 VDG. So I'll just play a little bit because he's got a little demo program here, and you'll see he's doing poke and HFF22. and then to the power of 4, the 4th bit or the 6th bit, ORing them together here to enable the border and the true lowercase.
So I have a very simple app that I can type in some sentences and then it will print them back for me, but it will do that poke. And that should enable the lowercase and the border.
If you use the older CoCo 1s and 2s or even the CoCo 3 by default, you recognize that the inverse video is lowercase.
Here we go. Can't believe it. I can't believe I had this all along. This is crazy. Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
So the funny thing is that he didn't know about the T1 VDG back in the day. So he's had a true lowercase in his CoCo 2 since 1985, 86, and had no idea until the last month or two. And in the comments, I'd even mentioned, like, there were several programs written to take advantage, like OSIGN Level 1 version 2 has support for true lowercase. Mikey Term and Greggy Term terminal programs both had support for it. If you had version 4.7 of Mikey Term, I think it was, and 1. Actually, I think all versions of GE Term supported that. So basically, as long as you knew your machine had it, you would just tell it, I've got lowercase, and it would just do the right, stored FFT2 to enable it. But this lets you do lowercase. I think even Scriptset was patched for it. So lets you do true lowercase in a hardware text mode, which means if you're running something that's scripted, it ran a heck of a lot faster than the graphic font version that this Scriptset used, where it's taking 6K to write 32 by 16 on the screen. And this is only half a K. So obviously everything from scrolling to typing to everything else is way faster. So I just liked his reaction that, when he actually tried it. Yeah, he had this all along and had no idea. And I was going to ask the panel, for any of you that had a T1 based CoCo 2 at some point, how long did it take you guys to find out that you had it? No, I never had a T1 BDG. I went straight from a CoCo 1 to a CoCo 3, so I never went through that.
That's what I bought it for.
Oh, so you knew ahead of time. You were going in there looking for it.
Yeah, that was something I actually asked at Radio Shack, show me how to do this. And that's what when I was upgrading to another 64K CoCo 2, I wanted one with lowercase.
So. I have to admit, I have no idea if my CoCo 2 had true lowercase or not. I had reverse video characters, but I'll have to test. But I don't.
Comes up in reverse video by default. For compatibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never tried to get true lowercase. I'm not even sure if I still have my CoCo 2.
Yeah. All the CoCo 2s that were capable of this, I think, had the Tandy branded sticker logo thing on the middle. If it says Radio Shack, for sure you don't.
Okay.
Most Tandy ones did, though I have heard that some of the earliest Tandy ones did not. They were still the original.
I think mine had a TRS-80 on it. I don't think it had Tandy on it.
Okay, so you wouldn't have had it then.
Okay, all right.
Mark Siegel, of course, says I knew immediately, but I mean, he was kind of like, involved with it. So I think he had a bit of inside information.
Inside information.
Did anybody else on the panel have a lowercase CoCo 2? And did you know about it at the time when you bought it, or was it further in the future?
I specifically, when my parents got me my CoCo 2, and I heard about a CoCo 2 that had lowercase, mine did not. It actually had the 6847. I had to specifically buy another CoCo 2 for the lowercase.
Yeah, I knew a couple people here that did the same thing. Mind you, they got to take it in as a trade-in because they read about it in Rainbow or whatever, and they knew what pokes to try. And some of them just didn't do it in the store. They just saw the Tandy logo and thought, that's got to be the lowercase ones. They took it home and tried it, and then no. So they come back and say, no, I want the true lowercase one. And honestly, most of the managers had no idea that even existed. So they would actually have to do the pokes in the store. They go through, machine by box until they found one that worked. And that's the one I'm buying because they're all the same price. And, most people didn't care because, or they're buying CoCos for games or had no idea about lowercase. But the few that did, club members that wanted to get it, because they're finally upgrading a CoCo 1 with a real keyboard. Now, might as well get lowercase while you're at it.
Yeah. Well, my case, I wanted to keep my original CoCo 2 because, well, it was a Christmas gift from my parents. And 2, I also already knew about the compatibility issues with the missing SG modes. Because, so,
well, wait, what missing SG modes?
Well,
because SG12 and 24 all work on a T1.
They don't work right. Some of the Descender characters will mess up. So
yeah, they shifted everything up a pixel to make room for Descenders. So yeah, if you're doing some of the games that try to mix characters together by scanline, then they would look wrong. It would still work, and the graphics were fine. Like the semi-graphic stuff was all fine. Even the Guardian mode worked fine on the T1. But yeah, you're right. The like Protectors 2, your waving men don't quite look like waving men.
And originally it was advertised that the T1 didn't have the extra modes and stuff. So it was like, no, we found them. They're there. They're just, yeah. But I got mine for BBSing and Mikey term. So I needed a case for that. But my first CoCo 2 was regular VD. And I was like, wait, they have one that has lowercase now? That's what I have to find.
Yeah, here's just to show people the screenshot here. So he's going, I think this is Semigraphics 12 at this point. Might be 24, I can't really tell here. But basically his real CoCo 2 capture on the left is running and then on the right. And
just a little question on the lowercase. What was the primary use or the reason you guys went for the lowercase? Was it a printing thing? Was it for printing?
Well, it's for displaying on the screen, because when you're logged into BBSs, especially in the mid '80s, pretty well everybody had gone to PCs or Amigas or whatever hosting BBS, so everything was mixed up or lowercase. So if you're trying to read that on a CoCo, it's like inverse video with capital letters, scattered throughout. It looked like a checkerboard. So it just looked a lot better. And if you're running Scriptsit or something, you patch that, or there was a few other programs that got patched for them as well, that it just looked a lot better. And then the full green border really made a difference because you didn't have that black box around it. So it looked more professional.
When did the true lowercase CoCo 2s come out, or first started coming out?
Late 84, early 85, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact date, and it kind of varied.
Yeah, it was 85 for sure, but I think there was some late 84.
Oh, for sure, I didn't have one then. I got mine in 83. So,
did you say before that Guardian works on the T1, the game Guardian?
Well, I remember, yeah, because we had a couple people that had it there. I mean, the score would be a little bit cut off because it would shift up the scan lines by one because of the making room for Descenders, but it was readable.
All right. Actually, I wonder, does anyone know how that extra width occurs for Guardian on a
Sockmaster knows because he's the one who explained it to me years ago. I don't remember any of it, but
in one ear out the other, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. It was almost like listening to him explain 3D math to me. Just gone.
It's another way to get a hair fire going.
Mikey mentioned in the chat, not every Tandy CoCo 2 had T1 VG. That's absolutely true. I think I mentioned that too. Chris Deris, I didn't know at the time, didn't even know it existed, but now that I have many CoCo 2s, I have some. Mark Siegel says, Motorola gave us 3 different chips with different fonts to see what we like best. I did not realize that. So there were some other ones, other versions of that font to look at. Mikey, and I'll totally agree with this one. The inverse lowercase is horrible to look at. Absolutely. To quote Ken. Mikey also mentions, just be aware the T1 VDG does not say MC6847 T1 on the chip. It has a part number that starts with XC. I do remember that. And Mark Siegel mentions it was Christmas for the year the Deluxe got canceled. That's 1984. And that T1 VDG was originally supposed to be in the Deluxe. That was one of its selling points. It had true lowercase built in. And in fact, Mikey has just pointed out, he sent me a couple of the newsletters that Frank Hogg was putting out in 84 for Frank Hogg Laboratories, advertising their Flex and OS9 stuff. And one thing in his rumors column that he mentioned there was basically the Deluxe CoCo. You could tell because it had a built-in ACI, serial port, hardware serial port chip, had the built-in lowercase and all this other stuff. So he's basically talking about the Deluxe from rumors. And that was mentioned there, that was part of that too. So if the deluxe had come out, it would have been out at least half a year earlier. I'm guessing probably about mid '84. By the sounds of it, it didn't come out till Christmas, and they just started redoing. Because I had to redo the circuit board for this too. Because the one odd thing is that the T1 does not have the same pin out as the regular VDG, so you can't just like swap the chips, even though it has the same number of pins. It won't work.
It pulled in some of the motherboard circuits. So there's a couple of parts that went on the motherboard that got pulled into the T1. So that's part of what the pin change was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting to hear. So it sounds like everybody that we talked to here on the panel, with the exception of one person in the chat, knew what they were getting and went specifically to go look for that model, like David and Alan here. Like, you guys knew about it, and you know, if they're selling both of them side by side, you want the good one for the same price.
User group too. You know, when the user groups were all about BBSing and modeming and whatever, and when someone showed up and had lowercase, everyone suddenly wanted to go, how did that work?
I will admit, at that time when I first saw it running, because James West was a friend of mine that got first one that I knew locally that got one of those. And one, it had the better keyboard too. It wasn't the melty one. It was the full travel Radio Shack keyboard. So that was cool, but not enough for me to give up my chiclet. When he showed me the true lowercase though on Mikey term, I was like, oh, maybe I should buy one of these. And I was busy. I think I was buying, there was some other hardware I was buying at the time. I think I was saving up for my CGP 220 inkjet color printer. I said, maybe I'll get one of these after I pay the printer, because the printer was like $700 Canadian. And by the time I bought the printer, the CoCo 3 rumors were starting. I go, I'll wait. And I'm glad I did, because that would have been disappointing to spend $150 just to get lowercase. And when, you know, for an extra 60 past that, you get a CoCo 3.
And it had a T1 VDG in it.
Emulated in it too, yeah. Exactly. Just, it lost all the higher semi-graphics mode. That was the one disappointment, until Sockmaster figured out that poke that you can fake the graphic part of it anyway. Okay, next up we have well, I'll let Bob talk about it. It's his video. Is Bob still on the call?
Well, Bob's computer is. There he is. He's
Bob?
Right, so
I am here, just muted. Wait a second. Yeah.
So this is your latest video called "Cutting the Cord."
Mm-hmm.
So you want to explain what it's about, and I'll display it in the background silently while you explain.
You cut more
Basically,
than the
just another conversion to DC, and rather than using any standard old wall wart, I wanted to use a PD power supply trigger and the mainly the USB-C trigger, the USB-C socket. That it's actually this one right here.
The one that's showing on the video right now?
Yeah, that's the same one that's on my desk right now. Just basically had to cut out one little pillar where that normally the cord wraps around just for strain relief. And if you ever want to go back, that's easy enough to just put a little like a standoff back where that plastic pillar was.
Now this one here, like when you did it this way using this USB-C connector, this actually allowed you to eliminate the transformer in the CoCo as well, didn't it?
Yeah, the transformer is out, and I went ahead and removed the big power transistor and heat sink just for the extra room and weight.
So this gained your room. It's in the case, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean that square that you see there is big enough. You could put some 18650 batteries in. You could put a battery charging controller in there, I guess. All I'm doing is running it straight off of DC power. So theoretically, I could use a battery, external battery, you know, that as long as it's capable of doing at least 9 volts. I found out later that it'll run off of 9 volts just fine. It doesn't have to be 12. But I use 12-volt PD trigger.
And you had to do some slight case modifications, but really not that bad. As
So
you
yeah,
mentioned.
right where the power cord comes out, it's already a nice oval shape. So I just had to extend it about 1 or 2 millimeters for the USB-C connector to fit right in there perfectly.
Oh, neat.
I kind of put a little flat notch on that other pillar in the back, and then that white putty, that's actually a 2-part epoxy milli put. Super fine white. It's pretty hard stuff. It kind of dries a little bit rock hard. And that thing is just, it's wrapped in some capped on tape. It's not really glued in, so I could pull that out if I wanted to.
Cool.
And this way you can just use a standard like USB-C cable that you can pick up pretty well anywhere and plug it in.
It does have to be the 9 or 12 volt capable PD supply though.
Right.
That's because of the pepper board.
So you have the sensor thing hooked up so that it feeds the right voltage into the USB-C?
Well, that's what that little module is that I'm putting there right there is.
Oh, okay, that's what that does.
That's a trigger module that tells the power supply it wants 12 volts.
Perfect, thank you.
And so like my laptop power supply, it's PD, but it doesn't support 12 volts. It goes 9 volts or 15. So when I tried that, I didn't realize that, but it turned on and worked. And I checked the voltage with my meter and it's 9 volts. So it goes up until it reaches the next lowest voltage and then it stops. It won't go above what the trigger is rated for.
But you can already see, like, with the stuff you got to remove using this, you know, how much, you know, MTK space it would free up on the left back side, but also that's all the heat generating stuff for the most of it anyway.
Right.
So imagine it runs cooler.
A lot cooler, and it almost makes it feel flimsy because it's about half the weight.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Put some
yeah.
batteries
Never
in
thought
it,
of that.
weigh it back down. Even if you don't use the battery, just put them back in it, weigh it down.
Yeah. And you can't plug it in, like you can't have the CoCo on and plug it in. You back that up about 30 seconds.
Yeah, because you tried turning it on.
Yeah, I had it on and I plug it in and the color computer comes in all kind of crashed.
Yeah, no, you can't ramp up. You got to
Now, with only having the 9 volts versus the 12, have you noticed, like, if you add a multi-pack and a bunch of carts and stuff, does it cause any problems or it just runs perfectly fine?
Absolutely no difference.
Okay.
I mean,
oh, and here's pimping one of Nick's games again.
Oh, hang on, I've got to see this.
Remember
Making sure the
in a
audio
multi-pack, the cartridges get their power from the multi-pack.
Multi-pack, that's right, too. So if you did a Y cable, I wonder if that would drain too much.
Well, no, what's going to happen is it's going to suck more
board.
power. It's just going to ask for more and more amps to make up for the loss of.
It's more of an amperage versus a voltage problem then.
Right, and as long as you can deliver it, you're good.
Pedro's pepper board is good for like up to 3 amps. And the CoCo is only drawing a little over half an amp.
It's a pretty elegant solution. Like like I said, you did have to modify the case. You had to cut one of the posts a little bit short, and you had to, you know, sort of sand out almost the little slot, but not much. I mean, you didn't might have modified the case that much. If you had to go revert back for some reason, I don't think it would look too much different. You have to really look.
Yeah, there's just a slight gap above the power cord. I actually have that one back in its original, on its original corded CoCo. And this one got its original lid back. So I have 2 modified lids for 1 modified CoCo. I'll modify the other one next. Actually, I'm going to do the CoCo 2 that I started this whole video based on.
Okay, so look forward to that as a supplementary video coming up.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I thought that was a pretty cool project. And like I said, those are easy to find and buy nowadays, whereas, you know, trying to get a transformer or something that would be more expensive and harder to find.
Yeah, and a PD supply, they're about $20-25 for an inexpensive one, or you can spend a lot more.
You can always spend a lot more.
I'm
Hey, cool. Thanks for putting that video up there, Bob.
They have dual output ones too. So you can have like a 5-volt device and a 12-volt or whatever.
I wonder what could fit in that power supply space that is now empty.
An SD card reader.
Yes, what could be used there? It's on the side of the computer, so.
I mean, Bob's actually fit a 3.5-inch drive in the bottom of the case before on one of his previous videos too. That's a bit more of a hack job though in the case.
Yeah, I had to cut out all of that support. And that
Cool.
one's still going. Yep. That's a fun
Okay, next
mod.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just saying that's a fun mod. Well,
yeah.
I like it.
Next up, we have Michael Furman, who's in the chat right now, being modest, as you can tell by the title on his video here. I'll play the intro of it and then explain a tiny bit about it. I think quite a few actually you here on the panel have already taken a look at it, but.
Uh-oh.
What?
Audio.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't also Sprack old enough it's PD by now?
Who knows?
It's classical, so it's got to be, right? I'll unmute it. It's just 2001 Space Odyssey theme, but that it was an old one before 2001 came out. So it's basically a promotion and kind of an explanation. He did a quick promo video earlier, but this is the full one that kind of explains everything. So it's CoCo SDC Commander. And it's one program written in C, I believe. But basically it runs under 4 operating systems on the CoCo. So it runs under Disk Basic, it runs under OS 9, it runs under Fusix, and it runs under Flex. And it all gives you access to your SD card through the CoCo SDC, so you can mount disk images and go through directories. And it's using a common interface between all 4 operating systems too, with a couple minor changes. I think one of the operating systems you couldn't use shift keys or something, so you had to change the key assignments a little bit. It also, I think it considers things drives 1 and 2 when you're switching the drives, but it actually, the SDC internally calls it 0 and 1, which is how he labels it. Actually, he should be on the darn call. He could explain this a lot better than I could. Hint, Mikey, since I see you're still in the chat. And he does say the recording is Creative Commons. So yeah, I was right. It's old enough. It's
Yeah, and you know what? Thinking about it, one of our commercials has that theme in it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a David Ladd one.
So it looks like I actually have queued up the original one, the original promo for it. So the full episode he does a little bit later actually goes through how he got it working, what the purpose of it is, which is to have a common interface between all 4 operating systems. So once you learn how to use one, you can switch operating systems and it's exactly the same. So you can start mounting disks. And he mentions that this entire project was started because one of the reasons he was getting Flex going, he's been doing this whole series on Flex. You can try all the software because Flex actually was, in 82, 83 was pretty robust on what it all had available. There was hundreds of programs, lots of business stuff, a lot of programming languages, everything from COBOL to Fortran to Forth to various versions of C, various versions of BASIC, fully compiled BASIC, Pascal, several versions of Pascal. There was, the original versions of like Dynacalc and Dynastar and Dynaspell and all this other stuff all came out, on Flex. And basically, because there was no SDC support directly under Flex as it was, there's not an easy way if you have a CoCo SDC to swap your disk as to what program you're running. You boot Flex, you might mount the second drive as one program. What happens if you want to switch to something totally different, requires another disk? And there's no way within Flex to do it. So the whole point of CoCo SDC Commander is to allow Flex to go in and start grabbing and changing which drive images you currently have mounted while you're running. And he decided, what the heck? Yeah, Mikey says, I had the wrong video queued. You're right. That was probably from my original one before the second one was released. But basically, this solved the problem. So now he can actually start going through all the other software that Flex supports, like the various, like I mentioned, languages and business software and all kinds of stuff. But now you can actually mount it from within. And then he kind of thought, well, why don't I make this utility universal between everything? and adding Fusics support. So now you can switch with that too. And it's, once you're familiar with the interface in one, you're familiar with the face of them all. So the big claim to fame here, besides getting Flex to actually talk to the CoCo SDC properly, is that this is one of the first, if not only, program that has actually meant for all 4 major OSs on the CoCo that the one program will work on all of them. So he's going to be doing follow-up videos now of all kinds of Flex software that you'll be able to see.
One program to rule them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, this is cool.
And for the programmers out there, if you look at the README in his GitHub, he actually detailed out the steps that were different on each OS to get to the same result. So he's got a roadmap of how you can do this same kind of idea, which
That's
was
nice.
extremely helpful.
Yeah. So here he's showing it under Disk Basic. This is what the Disk Basic one looks like. And he's using a graphical font, a 51 by 24. I think he fits on a CoCo 1 and 2 screen. Common, except for the Nitrous 9 version. I think the Fusics version has to run 80 column or 40 column. So I can't remember off the top of my head. But he's trying to make the screen layout and the keys, very similar between all of them. So you just learn it once, you're done. I don't think he demonstrated all of them here. Yeah, here's the Flex version. Waiting for YouTube. And he's actually talking right now. I just have him muted. Because he might copyright strike me too, who knows?
Oh, now, Curtis, when has that ever happened?
Let's not get into that, David.
That's how he finally stops the news.
I think I see he still has to patch the clock though, because it still says that it's the year 19,123.
Right. I just found out the other day you can put hour 97 into Nitrous.
Oh, can you?
In the date. Yeah, you can put any
I've
hour
never
you
tried
want.
that.
Yeah, any 2-digit hour you want, it'll take it. Set time, we'll report it back. It's cool.
That's so you can use it on different planets of the solar system in your space.
I was a fool, of course.
Yeah, you can take, if you're living on Mars and you're running your Flex machine there, or OS9 machine. Trying to remember. And then he goes into like Alan was mentioning, goes into the technical detail of how it was programmed and how you had to figure everything out. The fact that it's doing a sort of a terminal emulation internally, going through the code. Now, I will mention actually, if you go to his GitHub, you can actually grab all the code plus the documentation, etc. So you can actually figure out how he did it in case you want to do something similar, or you need some of the SDC routines for another OS for the CoCo, because we had a few other ones too that are a bit more rare, but we're out there.
Need a multi-view version.
I will be working on that in the future. I've already got some plans for that. So yeah, thanks, Mikey, for creating that. It's definitely going to open up Flex, because the one problem with the Flex before, you finally got the Flex boot working properly, and you can actually create your own disks. But with the CoCo SDC, as far as disk images you can only mount 2 at a time locally from the SD card. You could mount a couple more, I guess, off DriveWire and keep swapping images through there. But you'd pretty well need to write a DriveWire driver, I think, for Flex too. So you're back to square one. So having this where the CoCo SDC can just run natively as it's supposed to, and just swap the images as you're running. So I want to run Dynastar next. Now I want to run the Esther thing. Now I want to run the Tiny C compiler or whatever else you want to try out of the hundreds of programs that Flex had. That entire library now will open up to you. And Mikey plans, from the sounds of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mikey, plans on going through and producing videos of a lot of this other software so that people kind of know what is available and what they may want to try.
Yeah, I sent him one to consider, which is the 6502 to 6809 translator, because that runs under Flex.
Yeah, plus they have the Krasm B, which is a cross assembler that worked on like 8 or 9 CPUs, like 6800, 6801, 6803, 6805, 6809, 6502, Z80, a few others in there too, 1802.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to explore.
Yeah. So big thanks to Mikey for that. Go download it today. Because it's the greatest program ever written, as you saw on his trailer there. So
most epic.
Most epic.
Okay, continuing on. Jamie Cho is working on a Transpiler. This is a program that will convert color basic programs to Basic 09. So if you want to convert a program from Disk Basic to OS 9 or Nitrous 9 without having to run RSB, this will actually convert the code over to native Basic 09 format. Now, this is very much a work in progress. Currently, he does most of the original Color Basic is working. Some of Extended Basic are working. He's going to be adding Disk Basic and CoCo 3 Basic as well, but that hasn't happened yet. And this does not run locally on a CoCo. This runs, on a modern platform. And well, basically, you just pump it. Here's a Disk Basic program or an Extended Basic program or whatever that you want converted, and it'll run through and then transcode it into Basic 09 statements that you can then load into Basic 09 on level 1 or level 2. And this will make porting a lot of stuff. Now, how perfect this is going to be, because there's some differences that are a bit more fundamental rather than just how it's done type thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing this in action. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. I don't know if anybody in the panel has had a chance to try it yet. He just announced it 5 days ago, I guess it was. Has anybody in the panel, just out of curiosity, had a chance to try this? Or to even look at it?
But it's written in Python and looks imminently hackable. So fun.
Okay. Because if you can get it working with some of the graphics commands and stuff, then I could see people converting some program they typed in from Rainbow, like some old game or something like that, and getting most of the translation done straight to Basic 09. You might have to tweak it a little bit, and then you get the speed advantage. So you might be able to actually translate some games without having to manually do it. So I'm kind of interested in that too, because there's a couple pretty good, decent Extended Basic or Super Extended Basic games, etc., from Rainbow and Color Computer Magazine and stuff from back in the day that I don't feel like retyping it and refactoring it to run on Basic 09, but if it can do it for me, I'm all for that. I'm lazy.
Well, if anything, like other transpilers, it can at least do the heavy lift.
Yeah, you still have to tweak it, but
5% there, and the rest of the tweaks may or may not be all that hard.
Yeah. It's not like you're transcoding or transpiling between different platforms. I mean, the graphics are still going to be the same. So the compatibility for that kind of stuff will be, much closer than, say, converting an Apple II basic program to a CoCo. Just going from basic to Basic 09, because, I mean, the graphics commands, I mean, you have to run GFX2 or whatever. But, doing an H-screen command is just a display sequence for an OWN, OW set. And, line would just become a line command. That would translate pretty well dead on. So I'm hoping there's not actually going to be, too much you have to. Obviously, you'll probably want to go through and optimize like a for next loop. If it can run with an integer variable, then change it, afterwards, because it'd be much faster. But it would still run with floating point. So I'm very curious on. It's a little too early for me to delve into it, because it's only doing most of Color Basic and some extended, no disk or super extended at this point. It's a little too early for me to get right into trying it, but I'm definitely going to be monitoring his project, and if it gets up to the point where it's actually handling that kind of stuff, then I will give it a shot.
Because basic to Basic 09 is believable. The other way, not so much. But this could very well work well.
Yeah.
Because you could always optimize it, like you say, get rid of the real math here and there, and you could optimize it, but it will work right away, most likely, and then you can decide what to do from there. So.
Yep, and then you can get your Risk version game that you did in Extended Basic converted over to Basic 9.
Right.
Without having to do all the work.
10K of draw statements, yeah.
Hey, next up, we got several dragon stories here. So the first one here is Julian Brown. He has the first batch of boards for his duplication of the Dragon 32. And this is revision 2.1. So he's been, over the last couple of months, he's been, revising it. And he's actually got the first batch that he's actually going to be selling, or at least, offering to sell. And 17 pounds each plus postage. First come, first serve. I don't know. This was written 5 days ago, so I don't know if he still has any in stock. And he's doing some tweaks. He's planning on doing a revision of the board that's going to have some extras built into it too. But this is the one that kind of duplicates the original. So if you come across a Dragon 32, the motherboard got cracked or something, then you can probably get this, swap all the chips and stuff over, and you should have a working Dragon. So it's good to see that the project's actually fully up and running now, and people can actually order the board. So thank you, Julian.
That sure is pretty.
Yeah. Okay, next up after that, John Whitworth put up, he put up a couple of demo videos. This is one that probably shows it the best. This is a super RGB module for the Dragon. I should mention he's from Dragon Plus Electronics if you go on his website. The super RGB module basically takes the, you plug it into the VDG socket and it converts it to a true RGB signal for output, so you can get nice crystal clear video like you're seeing here. But this is a new version of it that actually works with the T1 VDG we've just been talking about, because the pinouts are different. So now he's got versions for both the regular, VDG and the T1 lowercase VDG. So he just has a quick little demo program here. So he goes through, he cycles through the different color sets, the border control, reverse video control, and the true lowercase control, all using this RGB output board. So there's some, if you have a Dragon and you want to get that kind of stuff working, now you have options for both the T1 VDG and the rear VDG. So that's awesome. And my last story for today is Richard Kelly. We mentioned him, I think it was last week or the week before, that he got his maze creator for the CoCo 1 and 2 and 3. And there's different versions of the program that it comes with for doing like H-Screen 2 graphics, or doing low res, like set reset style, or P-mode graphics and in between, for creating randomized solvable mazes. And you can actually have the computer solve it too, or you can rip the routines out from there and use it in your own games if you want to create a maze. And this here is the VDK version for the Dragon. So now he's released it for the Dragon 32, and I'm assuming it works fine on the Dragon 64. And all the different versions, the text version, the low res graphics, and the P-mode 4 style graphics, is all included on the VDK image, so you get all of them. So that is available, I think, on both the Dragon group and the CoCo group on Facebook. I'm assuming this will be up on the archive at some point as well soon, and maybe even on the World of Dragon archive if he hasn't uploaded there already. And Richard, if you don't have access to that, just let me know and I can upload it directly to their forums on your behalf if you want me to. So anyway, the Dragon's got some new software to play with there too. So, and that's the end of the news for this week.
Thank you, Curtis.
Yes, thank you.
Lots of new toys this week.
Yep.
How dare you interrupt nap time?
Lots of T1 stuff happening too, which is kind of cool.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
By the way, I should probably mention that I probably need to get off the call at this time. So
nice so do the rest of us.
Yeah. I think we're pretty well done the show. So
oh, okay.
Good timing.
Well, maybe I'll hang out for the outro then.
Okay. That was everything I had on my list. So I think we are ready for the outro. What do you think?
All right, roll the outro.
This concludes another episode of the CoCo Nation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Technicolor computer. For all things the CoCo Nation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCo Nation Show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCo Nation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCo Nation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server.
CoCo forever.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Well, I think that's about it for this week.
Okay,
so
Fred, you can
what's
leave
upcoming?
now.
So our rehearsal's over, and now we're going to start the real show.
Yeah.
Well, no,
So,
food is calling me. Bye, everybody.
See y'all next week.
Bye.
Push the
Later,
button,
folks.
Frank.